the right way round. On my phone, it looks like it's the wrong way round. So I'm hoping that this stream is the right way round. But hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited for this live stream. Getting to chat all about Disney World is going to be absolutely epic, and what a trip it was. So I cannot wait to dive into it. I've also had the most amazing questions, so I think it's going to be really, really helpful, really insightful. I've got everything written down. I'm so excited, and thank you so much for joining. Oh, this is sideways. Let me have a little look. Let me see what's going on here, because this is meant to be. Nope, that's going to change it the wrong way round. Let me have a little look. It's meant to be the normal way round. I did change this in the settings. Let's have a see. If we do it this way, is it going to annoy people? Because I feel like once you've started, you have to cancel the stream and reopen it. So I'll be okay doing it this way. I can't believe the first live stream back and it's all gone wrong already. But if it's okay doing it this way, we will maybe go this way, because I don't think once you have started, you can change the settings. Let me just double check. I'm hoping that as long as we can see each other, it's all good. What is happening, Netflix? Absolutely outrageous. It's a hate crime. A hate crime being committed. They've said, we're just going to make things awkward for you as soon as you come back. So let's just go forward. We'll be modern. We'll be like TikTokers. It's amazing. But hi, Deborah. Hi, Simon. Hi, Chris. Hi, Lisa. I'm loving everyone here. It's absolutely amazing. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for saying it's okay. As long as we can see each other, although I can't see you. I can see your comments, though, which is good. I can read them, which is fantastic. But, yeah, chaos. Absolute chaos. You're 100% right, Simon. Absolute chaos. Hi, Marta. It's so exciting. Hi, Natalie. It's so good to see you all. And I am so excited for this. I can't believe I've been back a week already. Like, it feels, on the one hand, like it's just happened. And on the other hand, it feels like a lifetime. Like, it's absolutely wild how time doesn't make sense. Especially, like, you wait for your trip forever, and then you get there, and in the blink of the eye, it goes. And I'm like, no. We need the time to slow down when we're there. It's absolutely outrageous. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for joining me. I've got my little Disney World sweatshirt on because it's freezing. I've gone back to the UK and it's dead winter already. And I can't believe it. Literally, last week, I was like, I can't cope. It's too hot. I've never been this hot in my life. And then the UK was like, we heard you were too hot, so we'll make sure you're too cold now. And I'm like, okay, well, this might be my fault, guys. It might be my fault. I maybe manifested this, so I do apologise. But let's start diving in with some of the questions, because these were such awesome questions. I think they're going to be really, really helpful. If you're planning a trip to Disney World yourself, I think these are going to be really, really helpful. And one of them that I wanted to start with is actually from Donna, talking about Multipass. Because obviously this is the big new thing. It's the whole different system, although it's kind of like FastPass. Can you book it from abroad? Can you not? And thankfully, we worked it all out. So the good news is, if you are an international guest, you can book in advance, which is fantastic. And it's not difficult to do, which is so, so good. You do have to have the Disney World app. All you then do is go to the profile, change your country to the United States, shut down the app, switch off location settings on your phone, and then when you reopen the app, they think you're in America. And I was so pleased that it wasn't going to be super, super difficult, because we knew like a VPN wasn't going to work, and people were talking about like changing, you can use these apps that like scramble your geolocation and all of this stuff. And I was like, that sounds very intense, and like which apps can you trust, which can't you trust? Thankfully, you don't need to do any of that. So it's much easier than I anticipated, which is great news. And actually booking it was very, very simple. Because it was new, I was like, is it going to be like dining reservations that they sell out in minutes? How's it going to be? And it was all good. In fact, when I was booking at the 7-day mark, every single ride was available. Nothing was already sold out, which is really, really good. And they also let you choose or look at what rides are available before purchasing. So you don't have to buy first and then hope for the best. You will know what rides you've selected in advance before paying, which is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that, because there's nothing worse than kind of signing up for something and then finding out rides are sold out and you're like, what have I paid for? It's absolutely the worst. So, yes, you're 100% right, Chris. No fear of sweating in the UK now. This is something I am very concerned about, guys, though, because the vlogs are going to be wild. Because I'm not even kidding. Like, within 10 minutes of being outside, the makeup is sliding off my face. My hair is sticking to me. Like, it's going to be horrific. So get ready for some real swamp-looking vlogs, because it's going to be wild. I've started editing, so the travel day is already all edited. Day one, I'm partway through. But what I did not realise, the first day I filmed over 2.5 hours of footage. So I'm obviously cutting it down, but I'm sure that is going to be an ultra long vlog. It was amazing, but just prepared. It's not like a slow descent. It's like a rapid decline. So it's going to look wild. Hi Mark, it's so good. I'm so good to see you, and I'm so excited for the upcoming videos as well. It's going to be the best. Yes, Lisa, I'm so glad. So me and Lisa happened to be there at the same time. We got to meet up, which was absolutely fantastic. I'd had Multipass for, I think, 8 of the days. I think Lisa did it for every day of the trip, and it does make such a difference. And it's that thing of, September is typically a quieter time of year. This September was definitely busier than the other Septembers that I've been. I don't know if people have heard September's a good month, or basically there's just no quiet time in Disney World. It's definitely still quieter than peak season, of course, but some of the queues were still very, very long. And Multipass, like, I didn't queue more than 15 minutes for anything, I don't think. So it made such a difference, because some of the rides are 70 minutes, 75 minutes. To cut all of that out is amazing. But the great thing is I'm going to be doing a video all about Multipass. So before I went, I filmed a step-by-step of how to book. And then I'm also going to talk about the strategy, because I did find the more you use it, the more you realise what works, what's the best rides to book in advance, like how to get the most out of it. And there's definitely a strategy. So I'm definitely going to do a video all about that. Yes, Simon, we're going to call a natural looking video of like glistening. We'll say glistening instead of sweating profusely. It would be amazing. Hi, Pauline, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, Lisa, oh my god, the stress of the really long vlogs. It's like blockbuster feature length vlogs. It's absolutely wild. Hi, Christopher, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining. But Julia, so no, I did not go on Guardians. It was so amazing, because every time I saw Lisa, she's like, we should just do Guardians. I think you should go on Guardians. I think you should do it. Lisa went on Guardians like every single day, which was epic. And I love that it became like an integral part of your day. And like I just backed out. Basically, on my first day I did Tron, which I was so excited to try. I was kind of nervous to try it, because obviously a lot of people have been having troubles fitting in the seats, and I was like, am I going to have trouble? And when I first arrived, I was there for the final day of Tron's virtual queue. Managed to get a spot, perfect. But the queue, even with the virtual queue, was 40 minutes long. And it was way outside the building. And the test seats were right near the entrance of the building. But they do have a little gap in the queue so you could get out and test it. Because I was on my own, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can test it. So I was like, let's just hope for the best. I was absolutely fine. And in fact, I actually found the seats really comfortable, because I was worried about kind of laying on your stomach. I was like, this is not going to feel good. Somebody who has like motion sickness, the thought of like pressing on your stomach, not fun. But actually, the thing that's interesting is the back bit, it's really flexible. So you don't have to, you're not like pinned in, like on something like Flight of Passage, where it's kind of similar, where your legs are pinned and your back is pinned. That is a squeeze. They are keeping you in. You ain't moving anywhere of Flight of Passage. But Tron is much more flexible. In fact, to the point where I was like testing out different ways to ride Tron. So of course, normal people ride it like you're meant to, where you hold on like you're on a motorbike. But there's actually 2 sets of handles. I'm assuming that's more to do with height, but what's interesting is there's one where you kind of really lean forward, and the second ones are closer, so you're kind of sat up a bit, which is a bit more comfortable, I think. But I was like, we're not holding on, we're doing arms up. We're doing arms up. Brilliant. Absolutely fun. What I did the second time, because the back is so flexible, I was like sat completely upright, but because you're like kneeling down, you're almost like stood upright. I had my arms out. I was flying around like the crow. I would have loved to have seen what it looked like from the ground, because everyone else is hunched over on a motorbike and I'm just like floating through the air. It was absolutely incredible. But it's really good to know that it is super, super flexible. But I came off of Tron and I was like, there's 0% chance I can go on Guardians. Like, to me, Tron, because you've got the inside bit I managed to cope with, because indoor coasters for me now, with the motion sickness, are potentially problematic. And with that, I coped, but I was like, I couldn't go above this. So if you incorporate spinning, I think I would have been done for. I think that would have been the end of me. So it was nuts. But yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for watching the lives. I love the lives as well. They are like my favourite part of each month. And yes, Victoria, the Multipass video I think is going to be super, super helpful because, like I say, there's definitely strategies where you get more out of it. I would say Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, just like Genie Plus, they get the most out of it because they have the most amount of rides and also a lot of rides with long queues that do have Multipass. And I would say the difficulty with Multipass is when you book, you can only book one tier 1 ride and 2 tier 2 rides. And of course, the tier 1 rides are what everyone wants. So I would pick your top priority tier 1 ride as your pre-booked ride. And then when you scan into your first ride of the day, immediately book another tier 1 ride. Because once you're in the parks, the tiers go. So I found the strategy that worked the best was to book the ride I couldn't miss and then 2 others, scan into the first one, and then book a ride that kind of had a later time in the day, which sounds silly because it feels like, but then you're having to wait ages to use it. But those rides will sell out. So book those ones first, and then once you've made your way through the big rides, the rides that have the shorter queue times and the closer multipass times, you will then be able to get through really, really quickly. Whereas if you focus on them when you first scan into your first ride, you'll miss out on all the big rides because they will sell out. So it does feel silly kind of using it and then booking something much later in the day. But once you've got through maybe 3 or 4 rides, you've opened up your whole day basically, and then you can just book over and over and over again very quickly. And that seemed to be the best strategy I found. And I found for Magic Kingdom, I did Tiana because I had Multipass 3 times in Magic Kingdom. 2 times I had Tiana's Bayou Adventure as my tier 1, and the other time I think it was Big Thunder I had. Using it for Big Thunder was so much better because getting the virtual queue for Tiana and then using Multipass for other rides was the way forward. Like, because you're going to get on Tiana with the virtual queue. I'd never used virtual queue before. I found it super, super simple to do. Every single time I managed to get virtual queue, it wasn't ever sold out. You do need to start refreshing like a minute before. But I found it super, super handy. So don't panic about that. But I would use virtual queue for Tiana, use your tier 1 or something else, and then you get the most out of your Magic Kingdom day. I would say Epcot is probably the least useful park for Multipass because all of the rides that get the long queues are tier 1. So it's Remy, Frozen, Soarin'. You can only pick one tier 1. What I found, during my trip at least, is that once you'd scanned into your first ride of the day, the other tier 1 ride would be sold out. So if you booked Remy as your tier 1 ride, once you scanned into the park, Frozen would already be sold out because I think those ones sell out before people get to the day. So with that park, you're not really getting the most out of it because all of the other rides tend to not have super long queues unless it's an unbelievably busy day, and then it could be helpful because, like you were saying, like sometimes it was over an hour's wait for Living with the Land. We know it's busy when that's the case. So on those sorts of days, I think Multipass will be helpful regardless, whatever park you were in, because otherwise you're not getting on hardly anything. But on a normal day, Epcot's probably the least useful park. Animal Kingdom as well, on a normal day, don't really need it. On a busy day, it was super helpful. So I had a Monday park visit and everything was fine. The longest queue, I think, was, I think there was probably like an hour for Navi River, which I'm not going to wait an hour for that. But on the non-busy day, even rides that normally are like a 5-10 minute wait were like an hour long. So having Multipass that day was great. And Multipass in Animal Kingdom doesn't have any tiers. So I would pick the 3 rides that you want to do. So I think I picked Navi River, the Safari, and Dinosaur. And then all of the rest of the rides tend to have shorter queue times, but using Multipass will still save time, and they're still available. So stuff like if you wanted to go on Expedition Everest, that would still be available. Things aren't selling out, which is good. So definitely go for, probably, I would say the Safari and Navi River are the two you really should go for, and then the other one, just whichever ride is your priority. But it's much simpler to use than anticipated. Downside, there is a lot of clock watching because you have all these reservations, and of course you're also trying to fit in your ride reservations around your dining reservations if you've got any tours or experiences booked, anything like that. So some days I would have 5 or 6 reservations, and it's a lot to have to be looking at your watch all the time. And I would also say the thing that can be difficult is, I think it could be easy if you've never been before to be booking rides that are on opposite sides of the park, and you're running yourself ragged all over the park. So what I would try to do is either book them where they're all in kind of similar area, or at least once I'd scanned into my first ride, pick another ride that was close to that as my next choice that I could book in, so that you weren't having this backwards and forwards, because I think that is going to be a problem. Because if you've never been to the parks, you don't know the layout, and like, of course you're not going to know how far things are. So there's pluses and minuses. I would say Genie Plus probably works better because you had more flexibility in your day, but Multipass definitely can help. But yes, I love Lisa Guardians every day, twice, which is absolutely fantastic. And this is the thing, everyone says, like, it's the best ride. Everyone I know that loves it, loves it. Either people will get incredibly ill, or it's the best ride they've ever been on. And I just know in my bones I would be the person that gets ill. I could just tell it. Oh, hi Annie, thank you so much for watching. It's so lovely to see you. Yes, Simon, it's so interesting to hear you're also nervous about Tron, because there's so many different horror stories. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's no rhyme or reason as to who fits and who doesn't. It's not like a standard thing. It's very, very unique. Like, I know people slimmer than me that have not fitted on Tron, which blows my mind. And I think it's to do with like your body shape and also proportions. And like, I know very tall people can have problems, people that have big calves, so maybe cyclists, stuff like that, they can have problems. So it's very, very hit or miss. There's no rhyme or reason as to who fits and who doesn't. But the good thing is they do have the seats at the back. They aren't the motorbike seats, but they do sit upright. So that's good if you are worried about not fitting, or perhaps you don't fit, or even if you're just not comfortable with the idea of being hunched over, you do have that option, which is really, really good. And I would say I booked single pass for Tron for later in the trip because I wanted to do it at night. And when I was planning the trip, obviously it was a virtual queue, and I was like, with virtual queue, you can't pick what time you're riding, so I'll buy single pass, and it was brilliant. Like, Tron at night is next level incredible. But also, when I was there, Tron changed the standby queue. When I got there for my second, my time at night, I think it was a 120-minute queue. Just wild. I couldn't wait 120 minutes for anything. Like, absolutely not. Nothing in life will I wait 120 minutes for. But virtual queue just walked straight through to pre-show. So it definitely, like, single pass can be really good. But interestingly, this is something that I'm definitely going to talk about in the video. Single pass sells out in advance, which is really unexpected. I booked a few in because it's like, I knew I wanted to do Rise of the Resistance, knew I wanted to do Tron at night. However, a lot of single passes, if you try to book them on the day, are sold out. So you need to be booking them in advance. Now, you don't necessarily have to book them before your trip. But, for example, like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I had good intentions of just rope dropping that or doing it at some point. Didn't happen. So then I was like, oh, I'll just buy a single pass for it. Sold out. It was sold out for like 4 days. So I did manage to book it later in my trip, but just be aware, if there are rides that have single pass and you're thinking about doing them, you will need to book them in advance, because a lot of the rides do sell out. Not all of them. And sometimes it's like, some days they'll be sold out, some days they're not. But if there's something you're desperate to do, be aware, because I think that's quite shocking. I never thought we'd see individual Lightning lanes sell out in advance. And yeah, that's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. I love that. Oh, Tron will go on. Yes, Tron. Oh, it's so good. It's so fun. And I was so lucky because the first time I went on it, the person in front of me, there was a group of three, and two people got put onto the last row of the ride before, and there was a man on his own, so he got row one. And then because I was a single rider, I got to ride with him. So I got row one, first ever ride on it, which was incredible. And he was so fun to talk to. So we were chatting in the queue for ages. And then he was saying he used to ride motorbikes, so like this is something that's familiar to him. Because I was like, oh, it's weird to sit like this. And he was like, oh no, you're like, this is really, if you know motorbikes, this is really authentic. And I was like, incredible. And then we both agreed. We were like, okay, we're doing arms up. If you're on a coaster, you've got to be arms up, people. And it was so fun. The photo was really fun, and what a great experience, front row. Although I have to say, because of the positioning, and if you're like me and you're a psychopath and you stand up like the crow, it doesn't really matter where you sit. It's a really interesting coaster that everyone kind of has a good view, regardless what row you're in, which again was something very, very interesting. Yes, Lisa, rope dropping at Epcot was the worst because Remy and Frozen are the top tier rides, but they're so far away from each other. Yes, that's so true. And Multipass doesn't get you as much in Epcot. It's so true because there's very few rides in Epcot that have Multipass. The ones you really want are all in tier one, so you can only pick one of them. If you rope drop one of the rides, it's a really long walk to get there. So you either have to decide to Multipass one and rope drop the other, or acknowledge that you're just going to be in one really long queue that day. I would say, if I was to do that, I would, or what I did was I booked Remy as my tier one, because if you were to rope drop that, the people that come from International Gateway, so people that are staying in the Boardwalk area or Skyliner resorts, will come in that entrance. So if you're staying in that part of Disney World, do Remy as your rope drop and Multipass Frozen. But if you're coming in the normal regular entrance to Epcot, I would do it the other way around. I would book Remy and rope drop Frozen, because you're going to have everyone from International Gateway get to Remy significantly quicker than you will. So that rope drop will be so long as a queue, so I wouldn't bother. The good thing though is, this is the thing that's difficult. If you book one of them and then you decide at the front of the park, I'm going to do that instead for rope drop, you can get so much done. Frozen, sorry, not Frozen, Soaring, Spaceship Earth, Living with the Land, Figment, all of those will be walk-ons, but they're also the rides that are included in Multipass, so then it's kind of no point in having Multipass. So really, you're in Epcot, you're only getting Multipass to ride Frozen or Remy, which is crazy. And yeah, it's interesting, because like you said, there's far fewer rides, whereas like Epcot, as Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, so many rides included, and also shows. That I thought was a massive benefit, because it helped you kind of pace your day nicely, because you'd have a mixture of shows and rides. Sadly, no character meet and greets anymore, but I did think it was good that they had they did have some shows included, which, especially like Hollywood Studios, I managed to see like every show apart from Beauty and the Beast, and it was just great. It was just absolutely amazing. So yes, you're right, Chris. You can only use Multipass for one ride once, and then you can use it for obviously as many things as included, and you can park hop. So you have to have scanned into at least the first ride in your first park before making a selection in another park, but you could park hop, which is great, but every ride you can only use it once, which is interesting. And virtual queue, there's 2 time slots a day. 7 a.m. you can book from anywhere. 1 p.m. you have to be in the park of the ride that you're trying to get the virtual queue for. But in theory, you could do 2 virtual queues a day if your 7 a.m. booking and you happen to ride in the morning, because then you don't have a virtual queue on your account anymore. You could then book for the 1 p.m. So that's good to know. Although you'd have to park hop, because at the time, when I first went, Magic Kingdom was the only park that had 2 virtual queue rides. Then it went down to 1. So all of the parks only have 1 virtual queue, but not all of them. Not all of them. Animal Kingdom does not have a virtual queue. And I don't even think Hollywood Studios has virtual queues. There's only Magic Kingdom and Epcot. So it's Guardians and Tron. Guardians and Tiana that have virtual queues. That is it. I thought what was interesting about Tiana is the only way you can ride Tiana is virtual queue or multipass. There is no standby queue. Most people will do virtual queue. But what was interesting, compared to Tron, which was a 40-minute wait with the virtual queue, with both multipass and virtual queue, I basically walked onto Tiana every time I rode it. It was really interesting because there was hardly no queue. So I don't know if it will stay that way, but or if I was just lucky. But every single time, very little queue, which is so awesome. But you were so right, Simon. Yeah, the virtual queue for Tron was interesting because it was a 40-minute wait. So it was like a very, very long queue, even with a virtual queue. But Tiana was the complete opposite. And I don't know if that's... I don't know why that is. Because you also have the added element of... You have multipass people there. So in theory, it should have been longer. But no, wait. No, wait. It was absolutely incredible. Oh, Victoria, this is so lovely. But yes, I think watching the vlogs will help because I'll get to show you in action how it's doing it. And like I say, I'm going to do this video and like lay it all out. And because I will kind of script it in advance, it won't be just speaking off the top of my head. It should hopefully be more cohesive, more making sense, which will be so, so good. And yeah, I think I would say if you don't like queuing, which I know is everyone, but I also know that people have different lengths. Like I will see people and they'll be like, oh, that's a 50-minute queue, that's not very long, and I'm like, that's nearly an hour long. To me that feels really long. So like I think it depends on how much you're willing to wait, but for someone like me, like I would always use multipass because it just cut down the queue time so much. You fitted so much more into your day, and it was so, so helpful. And it was interesting that the days that I didn't have it, I definitely did less, but it was good because then you could focus on stuff like shows or meeting characters. But those days I definitely did far fewer rides because the queues were just too long. So that was so, so interesting. Hi Kay, thank you so much. So exciting you are going to Disney World so soon. Like I can't wait for you. It's so, so magical. Just like, and this is the thing that I was thinking whilst I was out there. I think one of the reasons why Disney trips are so amazing is because every single day is your best day. And I think that's why everyone becomes addicted to going, because it's so rare that you go and every day is incredible. And you're just like, this is the best. It's so good. But yeah, it's interesting. I do think multi-pass can depend on the time of year you visit, but I also think it depends on the type of person you are. So like I say, September is typically a quiet month for Disney World, but I still found it super helpful, and I wouldn't have liked to have not had it, because to me, the queue times would have been too long. Like, queuing 45 minutes to an hour for multiple rides in a day, I just wouldn't be able to do that. So I think it depends on what you find an acceptable queue time, because I know everyone will be different. I think it depends on the time of year you visit, and also stuff like, because they've got rid of DAS now, a lot of people are going to kind of be forced to pay to use it if they have disabilities where they can't queue for a long period of time. I do think it would be really helpful, but it's just outrageous that people should have to pay. Like, you shouldn't have to have disability monetized. But yeah, I think it all depends on how long you think is acceptable to queue. Because yeah, I even met up with people who were like, oh my god, a 50-minute queue, that's not long, and I was just looking at them like, I'm not getting in that. It's amazing. So Victoria, the suitcases I have one that is a Lulu Guinness one that I got as a present years ago, which is the big pink one. And then I have one that I think was like from Primark. I personally like hard cases for a number of reasons. One, I think it helps protect your items a bit more because they have like a hard shell. And also, if you are somewhere like Florida where they do have torrential downpours, if your case is outside whilst it's being loaded onto the plane, it's raining, the hard case will protect it a bit more than a soft case. And what I think is really handy is both of them have like zips inside. So they both have two separate compartments. You can zip them up. So once one side's full, zip it all in there. That's not falling out. And I find that so helpful. And like packing cubes, I'm obsessed with packing cubes. And it just keeps everything tidy in its place. So, so helpful. And you fit so much more in. Although I was very impressed both ways. My cases were under. And I was like, I can't believe I've done this. I'm a new person. It's so good. But yes, it's so exciting you're going in 32 days. That's wild. Like, what a great time of year to visit as well. Like, I think this is a really nice time. Like, September is very, very hot, but typically quieter, although this year, not so much. October, all of the amazing Halloween festivities, and the weather's a bit more tolerable. November, again, weather getting even more tolerable. And middle of October, I think, is a really good time of year to visit because at the end of the month you have Thanksgiving, which is one of the busiest times, but in the middle you've got this like little gap where people are kind of saving it for Thanksgiving. So it's such a great time of year to be visiting. This is a great question, Lisa. Will there be a better offer for Disney World in 2026 because the dining plan offer is not it? I totally agree. What I think is interesting, this is my conspiracy theory. I think the 2025 offer is aimed at families because really the only people that benefit from the dining plan rather than the dining credits are families. And obviously the more people you have in the room, the better it works out. And I think Disney are doing that because they're just assuming, I feel like they've kind of given up trying to entice people. It kind of felt like loads of people are going to go to Universal, probably mostly adults, because it is a much more adult kind of, that there's a lot more thrill rides. If you've got very young kids, Universal isn't so suitable. And it's almost like they've just given up and accepted that people are going to go to Universal. But I actually think if they did a better offer, more people would have stayed at Disney. So I don't know what they're doing. So I'm hoping maybe in 2026 they'll go, this isn't the one. Like, we've lost too much custom. Let's try and drag people back, make them want to stay with us. But I do think it's this case as well of people seem to have nostalgia for certain things. So like FastPass, people, once Genie Plus came in, were obsessed with FastPass, and they were like, we need to go back to the FastPass system. We need to go back to we've gone back to the FastPass system. Admittedly, you pay for it now, and it's worse than Genie Plus. So it's interesting. So I feel like everyone wanted the dining offer back, and then it's come back and it's worse. They've realised actually this isn't a good offer. So it's kind of like, if we could all stop asking Disney to do those things because they listen, and then it's not great. So I really hope that they do try and bring more benefits back to staying at the hotels and the offer is better. But I also think I think they know that for at least 2 or 3 years, Epic Universe is going to be such a big draw that they're just kind of not even bothering to compete. But then, come 2027, when they start having like lands opening in Animal Kingdom and some of the stuff they've got in the pipeline opening, hopefully they will try and entice people back. But it's very difficult, isn't it? Because like, we all want to go, but we need the good offers because it's so expensive to go. That is the one downside with Disney World. It is such an expensive trip. So the offers do really make a difference. But the dining plan is only really good for families, I think, which is such a shame. Hi, Ella. Thank you for joining us. It's lovely to see you. Yeah, I love that, Lisa. Not waiting more than 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm the same. Like, it's so interesting hearing people's views. Victoria, 35 minutes, 100%. And you're so right, Lisa. One of the reasons I don't like queuing for ages is because obviously Disney World, you're doing loads of walking, and we all know that, and we all plan for that. However, what people don't take into account is when you're not walking, you're standing. And I actually think that's worse on your feet. That's when the pain starts kicking in. And when you're walking and then just standing for so long, it's agony. So I'm the same. I'm like, I can't be doing this. Yes, Chris, this is such a good point. It's like when Americans are driving for 8 hours and they say it's not a long trip. And it's like, yeah, for you it's not. But this is 100%, isn't it? Like, everyone will have a different scale of what's acceptable and what's not. And I'm like, these hour-long queues, I just can't do them. And as a side note, because we'll probably talk about it more later, Halloween Horror Nights, the Express Pass is worth every penny. It is expensive, but it also makes sense why it's expensive, because if it was cheaper, so many people would buy it that those queues would be long. But for Halloween Horror Nights, we didn't queue more than 15 minutes for any house, and every single house was over an hour. So you just wouldn't have got hardly anything done. But also the thought of being stood in a queue for an hour and then going through a house for 5 minutes and then thinking I've got to then stand for another hour, I couldn't cope. So the Express Pass was worth its weight in gold at Halloween Horror Nights. Like, I would always, always, always get the Express Pass. It's so good. Yes, Victoria, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think the reason I'm aware of soft cases and rain is because I've had a bad experience. And then I got to the hotel and it's like everything was wet and I was like, oh, this is no fun. But it's one of those things that I would never have thought of until it happened. But now I'm like, oh, I get the hard case. That'll be good. Obsessed with packing cubes. I love that you're obsessed now. Like they make such a difference. It's so stupid. It shouldn't make that much of a difference. But it's like magic. It's like a Mary Poppins bag. You just put loads of stuff in there, and then you're like, I don't know how this is all fitting. Like it's incredible. Hi Ella, it's lovely to have you join us. So yeah, I'm from Britain. I'm from Portsmouth, which is on the south coast, and yeah, but it's very depressing being back, and it's been great. Yesterday it was sunny for the first time since I got back. And I was like, I can't believe I haven't seen the sun in like a week. And I was like, what's happened? What has happened? It's the worst. But yeah, Lisa, you're so right. Like, you miss Disney so much, but the offer isn't enough. And I totally agree. And this is the problem I'm having. Like, I'm desperate to go back. And I did have a preliminary booking for next November. But mathematically, I just don't think it's going to work out because it's just so much to save in the space of a year, and particularly now where obviously my work situation has completely changed. I'm like, I just don't think it's going to be feasible, and it's horrible. It's so horrible because like when you're there, you'll just want to be back there immediately. But without having like a really, really competitive offer, it's impossible. Although I would say the one thing that is really good is I've done a split stay before with Universal, and the Universal hotels are significantly cheaper, really comfortable, really great. And it is that thing of like, oh, maybe a split stay is the one because you get some Disney, some Universal, and it brings the cost of the holiday down a lot, which is helpful. But it's so difficult because the Disney bubble is it. Like when you're on site at Disney and you just never have to leave, and it's always that feeling. It is amazing. Yes, Victoria, you're 100% right with the offer. If you upgrade to the next level of dining plan, it can work out more expensive. And that's the thing. That's the thing I really hate about the dining offer is like if you're staying in a value resort, it's an absolute trash offer, let's be frank. Getting one quick service meal a day, which is about the value of less than $15, is terrible. Considering like when I was there this time, I had the dining credits offer and I got $700, and on my last day I was still using it up, which is incredible. So all of my dining was basically paid for, whereas with that, you'd get one quick service meal a day, so you'd have to take so much, you'd have to budget so much for the dining. So then a lot of people are either deciding to upgrade the dining plan or upgrade the hotel to get the next level of dining. But however, if you upgrade the hotel, you actually pay significantly more than if you upgrade the dining plan. But then, like you say, if you upgrade the dining plan, sometimes you pay more than you would if you just pay out of pocket. So there's so much math involved when looking at the dining plan offer, which is so difficult. Whereas this kind of credits one, you knew what you were getting, and you would just divide it up between the amount of people that were staying in the room, which is just nuts. So yes, Victoria, they do tax on top of food at quick service restaurants. So what's interesting is because Disney World is so big, it actually sits across a few different tax districts. So some of them charge 6.5% and some of them charge 7.5%. So like I think Animal Kingdom is 7.5, Magic Kingdom 6.5. So before I went, I looked at what restaurants I was going to eat in, and then I would add 7% on top. So I knew how much you would be paying out for meals. And then of course, if you're at a table service restaurant, you also have to add tip on top, which is average 20%. And that is something that's so important to budget for, because that, like, so many people get tripped up with that. And they end up spending a lot of their spending money very quickly because they forget, like, 20% is a lot and you very quickly eat into your budget. So I always add that in advance so that I don't get tripped up, which is helpful. Hi guys, so lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. I really enjoyed using the Pocket 3, so I've got a new camera for this series, and the difference it makes is huge. So like when you're walking now, it's smooth. There's no like shaking. It just makes life a lot easier. The only thing that kept tripping me up is you have a microphone, And you do have a microphone in the camera, but it picks up a lot of different noise, so it's not so great to hear you. But you do have one that you can clip on, which is fantastic. Now, I will warn you, the first vlog, at least, like day one in the parks, there are definitely some clips where I forgot to turn the microphone on. So I had to get into the habit of making sure the microphone was on. And, you know, once that first day was out the way, you kind of were like, okay, remember. But that was the one thing that kind of tripped me up at first. But the camera, it worked amazingly, like, really, really beautiful, much easier to watch because everything's much smoother. And yeah, I can't wait for the vlogs to come out because it's going to be so much fun. And I've been loving watching the like memories back already. And as I posted on Instagram yesterday, I was watching some of the Halloween Horror Nights footage because I'm trying to make a video of what it's like to visit Halloween Horror Nights if you're someone who is nervous. And one of the houses I'd left the mic on. So this is one of the good things. Downside, sometimes you have it off when you're meant to be having it on. Other times you leave it on and you catch audio that you weren't expecting. And I had it on inside the Insidious house, which was the scariest of the houses. And the audio was absolutely hysterical. So that was one of the big benefits of the microphone, which was fantastic. Yes, Victoria, that's so great that you're already budgeting. And like, yeah, that's the hard thing, isn't it? Knowing how much to budget. People have like a rule of thumb where they would say $100 a day for food, but I would say that is if you're also doing table service, because if you're doing quick service, it will be nowhere near that amount, which is good to know. Yes, Guy, you're so right. The tips thing is a big thing, especially for people coming from the UK. You had poor service in Tony's and were reluctant to leave a tip, but felt you had to. And that is the really difficult thing, isn't it? Because in the US, you are kind of expected to tip even if it's bad service, because the theory is if something happens, like the food isn't good or the service isn't good, you're supposed to tell the server so they can correct it and then work out the tip on the correction. But obviously, like, there was some like restaurants I went to, I did not have good service. There's no way I'm bringing it up to them. Also, sometimes I just didn't ever see them, so there was no way I could bring it up to them. But like, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because you just think, I don't want to be that person that doesn't leave a tip or leaves a very low tip. So you do kind of feel pressured to leaving, like, on your bill, they will actually give you the amount for 18%, 20% and 22%. So you don't have to do the maths yourself. But yeah, it is really difficult because it's so foreign to us, especially to tip that amount. But I always budget 20% so that I know I'm covered regardless and I've got enough money on me. But it is very foreign. Hi Alison, it's so lovely to see you. We very luckily got to meet up, which was so fantastic. We were both in Animal Kingdom. And what was wild, it's not only we were both in Animal Kingdom at the same time, we were both in the queue for Dinosaur at the same time. Literally, I was stood behind you. Which I was like, this is like fate. We were meant to meet and we had the best time. And yeah, it's been lovely discussing the Disney Blues with you because it definitely is real when you come home and it's just like, I hate this. It's the worst. It's so bad. But I'm going to dive into some more of the questions because we've had some great questions. One of the questions was, did anything disappoint you? And I thought this is a really good question because obviously you go in with like excitement about everything. And to be fair, most things always exceed my expectations, which is fantastic. If you saw any of my like stories on Instagram, you won't be surprised at this. Primark was a massive disappointment. It is absolutely not worth the trip whatsoever. If you're going to Florida Mall because you want to go and look at all of the different shops and dine there and stuff like that, pop in. If you're thinking of going there specifically to visit Primark, it is not worth it whatsoever. They advertise it as having a whole Disney floor, which isn't incorrect, but basically the Primark is kind of large. It's probably similar to like an average Primark in the UK. And they do have an upstairs bit, but it's like an escalator that goes up to a section that's maybe a quarter the size of the rest of the shop, or even smaller than that. It's very small. So technically, yes, there is a second floor with Disney stuff. It's not the entire second floor, it's just a small portion. Everything you can buy there is the exact same stuff you can get in Europe. So you're not finding anything unique. There's nothing that's branded for Disney World. They don't even have things. I thought maybe they'd have like bubble wands or autograph books, things like that, so that people could buy them there and they're much more affordable than buying them in the park. Don't have any of that. It's literally what we have. 60% of it was kids' clothing. The rest of it was Stitch. I don't know why Stitch is so popular everywhere, but you can't get away from Stitch. And nightwear. So there was actually far less Disney stuff than in my local Primark. So that was a massive disappointment. Don't do the trip. It's like a 30-minute drive away from Disney, so it's definitely not worth it unless you want to actually go to Florida Mall and experience the whole mall. So that was a disappointment. I'd also say the outlets were a disappointment this time because the offers are not good. The offers are not good in the outlets. Instead of it being like a certain percentage off, it tends to be buy one, get X amount off. So like, for example, I went in the Crocs outlet and it was buy one pair, get 25% off a second pair, which I don't think is a good offer in general. Definitely not for an outlet. But also, like, they were like $75 for a pair of Crocs. And I'm like, that's significantly more than Crocs are in the UK. So I was like, there's no way on earth I'm buying anything here. And the Disney character warehouse wasn't that great. The stuff they had in, it was okay. The things that were really good were some of the clothing, but they were all extra small. Like, so that's why they had loads of it, because no one was buying it. And also, I got there 30 or so minutes early, and then I had to still wait maybe 20 minutes to get in the shop. There's just a queue all day long now. Like, it's unreal. And sometimes the queue is... some people queue like an hour to get in just the shop. So again, that's not great. And it's one of those things like, if you fancy having a little look at the outlets, it's definitely worth popping in. But the offers are nowhere near as good as they used to be. And the character outlet was a bit of a disappointment, which is such a shame. But also Sanaa was a disappointment this time. I don't know if it was just like an off night, but I had the bread service. And when I came back from my last trip, all I raved about was the bread service. And I was desperate to go back. It was like, I have to go. It was amazing. Did not enjoy it. Didn't really like it. Like, I don't know if some of the recipes had changed or if it was just like an off night or what was going on. But I'd go back for other things, but I wouldn't get the bread service again, which is such a shame because I absolutely loved it before, but that was a disappointment. But, however, there were some incredible new restaurants that I went to, new to me at least. So Shiki Sai in Epcot is probably one of the best meals I've had in any Disney park ever. It is a Japanese restaurant. They do kind of more like tapas style, so small plates. They do have some large plates that you can choose from. Unreal. The food was so delicious and the service is unreal. Like, when you first arrived, the host kind of like knocks these sticks together and then all of the staff turn and welcome you in, and it was amazing. And like, they couldn't be more friendly. They were really great with anything to do with dietary requirements. So I spoke to my server and then she was like, perfect, like, we can offer you this and this, but I'm also going to get my manager to come and speak to you. The manager knew loads of stuff, and then what they did is my server took my order and then the manager then was the one to take it to the chef so that he could really specifically be like, you, like, this needs to be modified to not have this and this in, which was incredible service. But Shiki Sai, I am obsessed with. If you have the chance to go, absolutely go there. Somewhere else I loved was Tusker House. I had never been before, and I think it's one of the best character dining meals in Disney World. Like, you get amazing food. The food is very similar to Boma, and I rave about Boma. Didn't have good service this time in Boma. However, I would actually say, if you don't have a car, don't bother going to Boma, just go to Tusker House, and then you get to meet characters on top. I got to meet the characters more than once, like, they came round a couple of times. Like, it was absolutely incredible. Obsessed. Like, definitely one of the best character dining meals. And someone had actually asked a question, which was, what restaurants would you recommend for first timers? Which is a great question. I would say definitely do a character dining meal because it's such a big part of the Disney experience. And I would recommend either Tusker House or Topolino's Terrace Breakfast, because both of them you get amazing service, amazing food, and great character interactions that aren't rushed. Because some of the other character dining meals, it kind of is a bit like a treadmill situation because there's so many people to meet, it's so busy. These ones, it was lovely. So they are definitely two I'd recommend. I would also really, really recommend Shaky Sai, obviously. Sebastian's Bistro is absolutely incredible. I really like Jungle Navigation Skipper Canteen. I think that's the best restaurant in Magic Kingdom itself, and it's kind of slept on. So that's definitely worthwhile going to. When it comes to quick service, Sartuli Canteen, everyone needs. It's so good. It's so unique. The food is amazing. Absolutely love that. Glazed Pizza, can't go wrong with it. In Disney Springs is unreal. The food is really good, and it's such a reasonable price. So there's definitely a lot of good dining you can do, actually, I think, in Disney World. I think theme park fare can be kind of a bit like, and there definitely is a lot of like, you can get burgers, hot dogs, etc. But there are also places where you can get really good versions of those. And there's loads of places where you can get unique options. You don't have to just have theme park fare. And I think that's something that's really good actually about being vegan, is you end up getting such a variety of different foods. I think actually probably more than people that aren't vegan, which is really, really nice, because you've always got the ability to mix things up and you're not kind of eating same things over and over, which is so good. Let's have a little look. Thank you so much for all of the comments. It's so exciting to read them all. But yes, this is such a good point. Disney keeps putting the prices up and up, and the cost of living crisis shows how little regard they have for inclusivity. True inclusivity means access for all, and now it's just for the rich. And I do think it is difficult because the prices are out of control now. Like Disney is more than double what it would be to visit pre-pandemic, which is mad. And like you say, so many people are priced out now. I do think there will be a tipping point because, like you say, with the cost of living crisis, look, we have seen this year actually Disney's the amount of people visiting has dropped, and I think that will continue because, like you say, the cost of living is going up, the prices are going up, but also you've got Epic Universe coming in, and that will take some people away from Disney. So I do wonder if they will lower the prices or make it more like the hotels have more benefits, because of course they've taken loads and loads and loads of the benefits away, as well as the prices going up. So I do think they will need to do something to continue to be competitive, because it's definitely a lot. And I do think that's the thing, like there's no way to do Disney cheaply, I don't think. It's just not possible. Disney World, at least, it's just not possible. And there are different things. Like, so some people I know wouldn't buy Multipass because obviously they're like, I've already paid to be here. I don't want to be paying more. And where I'm solo, I only have the cost of me. So it is a benefit in that sense. Like, it swings and roundabouts. The hotel room as a solo traveller is unbelievably expensive. But then stuff like Multipass, you're only paying for one person, so it works out a bit better. But it's that also that thing of like, for me, I know to get the best experience, I would want Multipass. So it's something I need to add into the budget for the trip. And then, of course, like you say, if you want to do things like that, it costs more. And you're having to add more and more. So it's so, so, so difficult. And yeah, it is horrible, isn't it? Like, so many people love it and they can't afford it. And yeah, and it's so difficult, and it is so hard, because I kind of think when you go to Disney, you want to be able to just do it properly. You don't want to have to be thinking about every single penny that's being spent and can we afford this. And like I will see sometimes families and they'll be trying to like split one meal between four of them and stuff, and admittedly the portions are big, so you can kind of split meals, but the fact that people are having to kind of restrict instead of just enjoy their trip is so difficult. But it's sometimes the only way to do it if you want to visit, which is so hard. Yes, Victoria, it's so true. It doesn't seem worthwhile waiting for the character discount shop. Maybe worth cutting your losses and paying the full price for something. And that's the thing, they do have a few things in the character warehouse that are currently in the parks. Typically, it's out of season stuff. So things that have come and gone and they haven't sold all of it, so they will sell it. There are a few items that are still in the parks, and they're like the rare treasures that you find. But like you say, especially if you're having to like Uber or something, the cost of having to get there and stuff, you do think, oh, maybe it's worthwhile just spending in the park. Because yeah, the character outlet was not good this time, and everyone I spoke to felt the same. And it might just be that certain times they have better items than others, and it's kind of potluck. But yeah, it wasn't good this time. I was not impressed. I wasn't impressed with the outlet, like, at all. Full stop, any of the shops, which is such a shame. But Lisa loved Tusker House as well. It's so good. Like, the food is unreal, and the characters were so fun. I love getting to meet them in their safari outfits. I think it's definitely one of the best. Like, I can't believe I've never been there before, and now I'm like, this is one of the best character dining rooms. It's so good. Yes, I love that. You're like, I feel like I'm being told holiday tea like it's back in the 90s when you had to wait for people to come back to learn anything. Yes, it's so true, isn't it? Because back then you had to wait to get all the information then because you couldn't be in contact with people, which is so true. Epic Universe is going to be a brand new theme park that's coming to Universal. So they're going to now have 3 theme parks instead of 2 and their water park. It looks next level incredible. Like, the technology is so advanced, like, it's going to be mind blowing. And on the one hand, I think it's really good for visitors because it's going to make Disney step their game up in the sense of all of the new projects they have coming up. They're going to have to kind of match the technology. You'd hope that it would make them more competitive, because the 2025 deal for Disney World, as we said, isn't great. If Universal then come in with a compelling offer for their new hotels and Epic Universe, Disney are not going to be able to compete whatsoever. So maybe the next year they will do a better offer. But Epic Universe looks next level incredible. You've got Super Nintendo Land, which I think is going to be amazing. They've got a new Harry Potter land. They're going to have a Universal Monsters Land, which is all like Frankenstein and Wolfman, which, to have like a horror themed land, it's going to be incredible. They've got How to Train Your Dragon Land. I don't really know those films, but it looks really impressive. Some really, really cool rides. They're going to have 3 new hotels coming as well. So it's going to be a big, big year next year in Orlando, which is so exciting. Yes, guys, going back to talking about the prices, they need Multipass for deluxe hotels. If you drop £500 a night at the Polynesian, you don't get any breakfast. It's crazy for just a bed, which is true. That is the thing, isn't it? Like, all of the benefits are kind of the same across the board. The only extra benefits that deluxe guests get is the 2 hours, or maybe it's 3 hours, 2 times a week. So 1 night in Magic Kingdom, 1 night in Epcot, which isn't a much, that isn't really a good, compelling offer for how much extra you pay for the deluxe resorts. I think Disney are kind of hoping that because the deluxe resorts are closer to the parks, apart from Animal Kingdom Lodge, and they have multiple forms of transportation, they're like, oh, that's the extra benefit. But they are so much more. So I definitely think they need to bring back more benefits to staying at a Disney resort. And like you say, deluxe resorts, they need kind of more benefits for the price tag, because yeah, it's so unbelievably expensive. And yeah, it's such a shame. That is the one downside with Disney World. There's no way to do it cheap. It's not possible. Even if you get a good deal, it's still expensive. But like I say, I think that there's certain things you can splurge on and certain things you can save on, and it just depends on who you are. So like for me, I like to do the multi-pass, but then other things, like if you bring breakfast with you, you could save money on dining and stuff like that. There's all things, like some things you might want to splurge. Or like this time I flew premium economy. And it's that thing of, so when I went to Florida last time, I did the upper class on the way out and economy on the way back. For Anaheim, I did economy both ways. And this one, I was like, I'm going to do premium economy. I've done premium economy before, but I hadn't done it since the pandemic. And I was like, the economy going out to LA was absolutely fine. Coming home was really uncomfortable. It was not the one. And I was like, there's no way I can do long haul economy anymore. So when I booked the premium economy, it actually wasn't that much to upgrade. It was actually quite a competitive price. So I was like, perfect, we'll try it. And it was so good. Like, it was so much more comfortable. At no point was I uncomfortable. Apart from the baby screaming, that was uncomfortable. But the actual seat, the experience, everything about it was amazing. The fact you got 2 cases was amazing. So I definitely think long haul flights, I would have to do premium now. But again, other people are quite happy to do economy. So it's swings and roundabouts as to where you can save money and where you might want to splurge. But I do feel like it's one of those trips that you want to look at all of the areas and then budget accordingly, because I think there's nothing worse than wanting to go and then having to miss out on so many things because you haven't been able to budget for it. So yeah, it definitely takes more planning than any other Disney park, because you don't have to be thinking about like, how much money do I need to take so that I can have the type of trip I want to have, which is so difficult. So yes, Chris, I do have another trip booked. So this actually I actually booked this a week before I went to Disneyland Paris in March. So my best friend, we went to Disneyland Paris together 11 years ago, and she's never been back since. So we've been talking about going, and then we were like, let's just do it. It's gonna be so good. So I'm going in January to Disneyland Paris, and I'm gonna be there for my birthday. So I've never actually been in Disney on my actual birthday. So I think that's gonna be so interesting. I think it's also gonna be interesting because the day before we go is when the drone show stops. We also know that in January at some point there's going to be a new fireworks show. And I'm hoping they'll be there when I'm there, because I don't think, from historically, what Disneyland Paris have done, they don't tend to end one show and then have nothing and then launch a new show. So fingers crossed, it would be perfect timing if when we were there they did transition to this new fireworks show. But yeah, it's nice to have another countdown, because otherwise the Disney blues are too great to bear. But that's gonna be so good, and that's coming about so quick now. Like it's like, I think it's the 100-day mark today, which is absolutely wild. So that's gonna be amazing. But it's so difficult because obviously when you go to Disney World, everything is on a bigger scale. Everything is brighter, bigger, more extreme. And then like Disneyland Paris, it's nice because it's manageable. Like it's so much easier to walk around. Like, and it's so pretty, great versions of rides. I think some of the best versions of rides in the world, but it is just a different type of park. And it's just like, oh, you've got such big and bright to like more like cozy and comfortable. But I do actually like where it is the small size and you can hop between the parks and the Disney Village and the hotels easy. That's so nice. But something I would say about Disney World that was amazing is having a car. And like that's one of the things I was like, in future trips maybe I don't have a car so that you can save some money. However, it's one of those swings and roundabouts things, because staying at an all-star resort is the most budget friendly, and they of course have the free Disney buses, so you can absolutely do it. However, there are a few value resorts like Pop Century and Art of Animation that also have the Skyliner. So then you think, maybe I should upgrade the hotel so I've got more forms of transportation. However, the difference between upgrading the hotel is also the same cost as hiring a car. So then you're like, so do I upgrade the hotel but then have Disney transport? Or do I stay in a lower cost hotel and have the car and have the freedom that the car brings? And I just love having the car. It's so convenient, where every single place on property I could drive to within 15 minutes. And like when it was roasting hot or pouring with rain, I'd just be passing people at bus stops in my car just thinking, oh, what a nightmare having to wait. I do think it's so handy that you have free transport. And obviously you need transport because it's so big. And I think that is such a big perk of staying on site, because you can get anywhere you need with the transport. But it's undoubtable that having a car is much more convenient. And the fact that parking at the hotel is free and parking at the parks is free, it's just so good. So I think my car hire worked out to something like £32 a day. So it wasn't too expensive either. And to have that complete freedom, I was like, it was absolutely worth it. And now I'm starting to doubt my choices of, could I just do Disney transport? Because I'm just so used to the car now. It's no good. So guys, this is really interesting. Deluxe resorts, they have the extended hours, but they close most of the rides, so everyone in the extra hours goes on the rides that are left open. So Frozen was 80 minutes after the park closed to regular guests. That's wild, because then that's not even a benefit. If you're actually waiting significantly longer when it's supposed to be a quieter park, that's crazy. So yeah, that's not the one, because then, like you say, that's not a benefit, that's a disadvantage. That's bonkers. Yeah, I would never have expected that. That's really shocking. And like you say, such a bad deal for deluxe guests. But Victoria asked, when do you think you'll go back to a Disney park in the US? This is the thing that's so sad. I don't know. Like, I am desperate to go back to Disneyland and Disney World, but it's just a costing thing. And where my work has changed. So at the moment, I do not have a regular income coming in at all. So up until this point, I've always known, like, this is how much I make a month, this much I can put into, I have like a holiday savings account, and I would know it would take me X amount of months to save up enough to go to Disneyland or Disney World, so I could budget it that way. Now that I do not have a regular income, I mean, some months at the moment I don't even have enough to pay for my bills. Luckily, I've got some savings that I can dip into, so until we have a regular income, I have no idea. And that's the really depressing thing. That's genuinely so sad, because I think switching to freelance, for me, lifestyle wise is much better, but obviously it's difficult financially because you just don't know what's going on. Some months will be better than others. I think obviously the longer you do it, the more client base you build up, the more different income streams you have, the easier it is to plan and budget for things, because you kind of know, I typically get X amount a month, whereas at the moment it's all still so new, so you're just like, I don't know what's going on. So I really, really, really hope it won't be a long, long time, but I have no clue, which is the sad part. And I think that's why, I think it's interesting. I think that's one of the reasons why when you visit it's so special, because you don't get to go very often. But then that's why it's so hard leaving, because it's so sad, because you don't know when you're going to be back. And that last day, even the days leading up to it, I could feel it brewing. And I was like, I'm going to have some sort of tantrum. I'm going to be really upset. Like, I knew I was going to be crying when I was leaving. I just knew that was going to happen anyway. But in the days leading up, you were just constantly sad, because you're just like I was driving myself mad, because I was like, this is the last time I'll ever use this spoon, this trip. And like, it's ridiculous. Like, you're making yourself sadder by getting upset about silly things and constantly being like, this is the last time. I'm like, it's not like the last time ever. I'm not going to the gallows. We can calm down. But I think that's one of the reasons it is so special, because you don't get to go so often. And it is interesting because the experience of meeting some people who are local and get to go all the time, there's definitely an element of, I think it becomes normal. And not that I don't think it's special, but I think they absolutely don't see it the same way as someone who doesn't get to go does. And like, if they miss out on something, it doesn't matter, because they can go next week. Whereas if we miss out on something, we might have to wait 10, 20 years to go back. So that's really interesting to kind of see the difference. Yes, Victoria, you're so right. Freelance is hard work. And I think it's that thing. It's like you say, it swings around us. It's really nice that you kind of get to do stuff for yourself, but then it's the instability as well. So it's very, very, very challenging, but also fun. So yeah, well, I hope it will all work out. So I'm very much a kind of big believer in things happen for a reason, and I'm like, this will all work out. It'll be fine. We'll just see what happens. Maybe I shouldn't think like that. But I'm very much like, roll with the punches, see how it all goes. Hi Laurie, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Hi Sarah, so lovely to see you. Sarah is also someone that I got to meet up with during my trip. It was the best. I had to say, the meetups was such a highlight. It was so good. We had the best time. And guys, this is one of the #1 tips that you're going to see in the vlog series. So me, Lisa, her partner, Sarah, and Jin, who you might have seen from the podcast, all met up. The best night. It was so much fun. But we did something which everyone needs to do at least once, and that is book the latest time slot at Ogre's Cantina. So we went in there, had some drinks. It was really, really fun. When we left, we were walking around Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood Studios with no one else around. And to have basically the park to yourself is incredible. And that was such a highlight of the trip, because we were just having the best time all together. But then to have this super special experience that we were all sharing, I was like, this is like a core memory moment. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing that, because it was just absolutely remarkable. It was so cool just walking around, and we were like, it's just our park. It's so good. It was so good. And something else I did for the first time this trip, which was incredible, was watching the fireworks from behind the castle in Fantasyland. And it wasn't intentional, because that night I was like, because weirdly, most of the days I was in Magic Kingdom were Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party nights. So the parks shut early. So there was only 2 occasions where I could visit Magic Kingdom in an evening. One time I did the dessert party, which again was a highlight of the trip. Absolutely recommend that. Cannot recommend that enough. It was incredible. And the other time I was like, right, I'm going to get on loads of rides, because everyone's going to be watching the fireworks. Interestingly, until the fireworks are happening, the queues are still very, very long. So it didn't really work out. However, I was thinking, oh, I'll go and get on some rides. And then I was like, do you know what? I was walking through Fantasyland, and I was like, there was some seats available. And I was like, maybe I'll just sit here. The best experience. It's almost better than watching it from Main Street, because you've got loads of space around you. But also, there's fireworks on the castle themselves. There were fireworks going off over my head, and there was fireworks going off behind me, and you were like inside the fireworks show. It was such an incredible experience, and like the music is projected everywhere. Not projected, like played everywhere, so you can hear the whole show. You do get to see Tinkerbell fly, which is so fun. The only thing you don't see is the projection on the castles, obviously. So I would say, if you have seen Happily Ever After from Main Street and had that normal view, and you're wanting something later in the trip to do that's different, definitely go behind the castle, because that was such a special time. I was like blown away, because I wasn't kind of expecting to do it. And then I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever done. It was so good. But yeah, Sarah said Pop is absolutely fine without a car. The Skyliner is great. Went to Universal with a Lyft and Uber, and it was about $33, $39 round trip, which is really, really good, because parking at Universal is very expensive. I think when I went for Halloween Horror Nights, it was like $32 or $35. Universal parking is very expensive. So it's interesting that round trip Uber cheaper, which is so good. But yes, Simon, you're so right. Saying goodbye to each park is the worst. It's so hard, and you're just like, I don't like this feeling, and it comes so quickly. It's just the worst. Yes, Lisa, the meetup was perfect. We went. Yes, so Sarah, and thank you so much, Sarah. Sarah had literally landed the day before, gone to bed at like silly o'clock in the morning, and still powered through the whole day to come and meet us in the evening, which was amazing. But we got to go on Rise of the Resistance together, and it was Sarah's first time. So getting to see someone's first experience of it was so great, and I absolutely loved it. And I think we all had a highlight moment when you kind of go into the little bit and you're going to be dropped from the ship, and it was so great to see your reaction. And that was so much fun. And Sarah said, went later at single rider with a 4-minute wait, posted 85-minute wait. And you're so right. I was so lucky, because my last day in Hollywood Studios was the day they brought back single rider for Rise of the Resistance. I don't know how long it will stay, because they tried it out for a few weeks before, then it went. Then it was back. And I think I waited 25 minutes, but it was 85-minute wait. So you had a significantly shorter wait, which was so good. I would say though, with single rider, you do miss out on the Ray room and the transporter scene. So you do enter in the Stormtrooper room. So if you've never ever been on Rise of the Resistance, you will want to have the full experience. But if you are a single rider, or you are wanting to cut down the queue time, the single rider queue was amazing. It was so good. Laurie says he prefers to watch the fireworks from behind the castle as well. And yes, watching them from just outside Gaston's Tavern, that must be amazing as well. And yeah, like, there's so many great places you could watch in the park, which is so good. And it's definitely worthwhile, because I'd never done that before. And I was like, this is absolutely incredible. And then I went over to Tron and had my Lightning Lane, so rode it at night. At that point, the fireworks had obviously finished, so everyone was hot-footing it to get on Tron as their final ride of the night. However, the queue then went astronomically long, like to the point where it was almost at... Because when you walk up to it, they have like the Tron sign and you see the canopy, then you walk forward, you're under the canopy, then you walk around and you get into the queue. The queue after the fireworks was almost back to the Tron sign at the very entrance. It was so I can't even imagine how long that must have been. But walked straight on with the the single pass. So that was very cool. I also did single pass that night for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and again walked straight on. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is such a different experience at night, and it's so much better because it feels so much faster, so much more thrilling. Loved doing that at night. So fun. I have heard that apparently single pass prices are about to go up again. So that is something to be aware of, because I think the cheapest one, I think Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was $11. They also do fluctuate. So when I was looking at booking multi-pass and single pass, on the morning that I could book, I went through and looked at all of the dates and all of the prices, because the prices do fluctuate on different dates. And then I booked for cheaper days. So like Rise of the Resistance, I knew I wanted to do one single pass with it. Most of the days it was $25. One of the days it was $20. So I booked on the $20 day. It's definitely worth kind of looking through just to see which days things are better, because you're getting the same experience. If you can do it for a bit cheaper, it's worthwhile. Simon says Rise of the Resistance is the best. Absolutely agree. Like, it's my favourite ride. Like, it's like being in Star Wars. It's absolutely wild. It's so incredible. It's so good. And he also says a great view of the fireworks from Tomorrowland as well. Watched them by Cosmic Rays by accident one night, and it was so great. Yes, I've heard loads of people have also said if you go on rides like Dumbo and things like that, that's a great view. So it does feel like a lot of places you will get a fantastic view. And I think that's the thing. I was the same. You just think you've got to be on Main Street, but there's loads of great places. If you don't mind not seeing the projections, there's so many amazing places you can view them from, which is so good. Although I have to say the dessert party was another highlight of the trip. It was absolutely worth the money. I did the post party, which I would say if you are adults, that is the one to do, because you can go into the viewing area. I got there at 7, so they said you were supposed to get there from 7:30, but I got there early and they let me in. You can then sit down on the grass. So just sat there, had a little drink. Lots of people had actually bought like food from quick service locations and then were eating their dinner in there. Then a few minutes before, they will stand you up and you move forward, watch the fireworks. Absolutely incredible. Then afterwards you have your desserts. What I would say was interesting is I would not say it's worthwhile for families, because typically families will do the pre-party, because obviously after the fireworks they're going to want to go back to the hotel. It's late and probably you don't want to be giving kids like loads of sweets at like 10 p.m. and then going back. So the pre-party is definitely worthwhile. However, most people that do the dessert party are adults. So if you're going to the dessert party thinking your kids are going to get a better view, they're most likely not. And it's one of those things that this is where my child-free millennial bad attitude comes in. Because so like people like me, we've got there like an hour and a half early. So the pre-party, whilst you're sitting on the grass, are having their desserts. They turn up maybe 10-15 minutes before the fireworks starts. However, a lot of the parents then presumed that their kids would be able to push in front of everyone who'd been waiting an hour and a half. But obviously we know if someone's waited an hour and a half versus 15 minutes, it's not fair to do that. But also, everyone there has paid $100 to be there. So when you're on Main Street pulling that stuff, people can't really do much about it. When people paid $100, ain't nobody moving. So I would say for families, 1, it would be unbelievably expensive because it's $100 per person. 2, you're not going to get a better view because it's mostly adults that do this. I think it's because people like me who are like, I love Happily Ever After, and I never ever get to see it because kids on shoulders, and while I'm a short person, I'm only 5'3", I just don't see anything. So I was like, I'm going to pay this time and get the good view. And that's what a lot of people there are doing. They're adults that can't see normally. And they're happy to pay the premium. So I would say it's probably not worthwhile for families because it's very expensive and your kids aren't going to get a better view. However, if you are adults, definitely do the post party. The view is absolutely incredible. So basically you are in front of the Plaza restaurant. You have your own cordoned off area. Right in front of you is the disabled viewing area. And there was not many people in there. So what would happen is typically those people would go towards the front of their area. So there was a big gap between you. So you didn't have people's heads in the way, which was fantastic. You had an unobstructed view of the castle. Tinkerbell flew over your head. Absolutely incredible. I know some people that have done the seats and suites version, where you're actually sat down at Tomorrowland Terrace to watch. The downside with that one is you don't see the projections on the castle because there are trees in the way. However, you are sat down. But I would say where you got to sit on the grass until like 10 minutes before, I was so comfortable. It was amazing. And then I was actually impressed with the desserts because I was expecting like it's not going to be very good, but because you're really paying to have the private viewing area. But they were so good, and I'd pre-ordered like a vegan plate. And I had to take it home with me because there were so many desserts. But also, you have unlimited drinks. So they had lots of different soft drinks. They had like pog juice, iced tea. They had like, they call it apple cider. So apple cider in America is like appetizer. It's non-alcoholic. It's kind of like fizzy apple juice. Hard cider is what we would call cider. So you could get the non-alcoholic cider, but they did also have an open bar. So when I did the dessert party in Disneyland, adults could get 2 alcoholic drinks included. At this one, it's open bar. The rule was you can only take 2 drinks at a time, but you could take as many drinks as you wanted. So if you were some of the drinks, you could get your money's worth that way, because it was beer, wine, and sparkling wine. But otherwise, I loved. There were so many different like soft drinks on offer, and where it'd been so hot, I was just like going mad trying all of them out. So I really loved that. If you don't have dietary requirements, there was lots and lots of different desserts. It's basically like a buffet full of desserts. So you had loads of choices. Absolutely loved it. I would do that again 100%. So that because the view was outstanding and it was just like such a special moment. So I would absolutely recommend that. Let's have a little look. Oh, Laurie's also going in 34 days. It's so exciting. I cannot wait to follow along on your trip because it's going to be absolutely epic to see everything you do and kind of live vicariously through you. Yes, so Victoria has a very good question. I tried the new Mesa flatbread from Pecco Bills. So what was interesting, I ate in Pecco Bills and it was the rice bowl. And I actually liked the rice bowl. It's kind of plain. If you get the guacamole, it has so much more flavour. But it was great. It was packed full of vegetables, really like hearty. Nothing, it's not special, but it was a solid option. The next day they changed the menu. So I went back the following day to try this new vegan flatbread, and it was the worst thing I ate during my 2-week trip, and I will never have it again. And it was just because the flatbread, the texture of the flatbread was horrible with the toppings, because it wasn't like a pizza. It wasn't crisp. It was more like a pita bread, but just longer. And just the cold and the texture, and then the toppings were a mixture of warm and cold, and it just all together, I just hated it. I absolutely hated it. It was awful. It was the one thing that I like didn't finish. I did not like it at all. So I think that's such a shame because Magic Kingdom is one of the worst parks for dining, I think, and particularly for vegans. And that I think the rice bowl was much better. Interestingly, I've seen a lot of reviews and everyone else has raved about it, and I was like, I don't know if my taste buds are different to everyone else's, but I absolutely hated it. It was all Coco's just turned up. Say hello. Say hello. Show everyone your little face. Hello. But yeah. And maybe it's just me, but I really hated it. It was so awful. But I'm gonna go back to some questions. This is a really good question, actually. Was the Living with the Land tour, the fish bit, okay as a vegan? As this is the bit that puts me off. And this is something I was really worried about in advance. And I'd actually asked a few people I know who were vegan, who had done the tour, what was it like? And they were like, oh, you do walk through that section. And they were like, she will address the fish, but, you know, they kind of move on quite quickly. And there is an option for you to feed the fish, but you don't have to. So I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. So during my tour, again, like, it's not a big section that you are in the fish section, and they do give you the option to feed the fish, which obviously I was like, I don't want to be involved. What was interesting, because I spoke to my friend again afterwards, and he didn't have this during his tour, and on the one hand, I thought it was good that they addressed it, but during my tour, she was talking about the food that they were feeding the fish and the quality it had to be, so that when they kill the fish, they will be restaurant quality to be served. And I thought that was good that they did acknowledge that these animals are going to be killed. Disney kills animals. And they were kids on the tour. So I thought it was good that they were addressing the fact that, you know, Living with the Land, everything grown during Living with the Land is harvested or killed. There wasn't this kind of like, you know, brushing over it, just being like, oh, look, we've got fish. And like, because they were talking about how the fish also help the growing of the, like this like aquaculture thing that goes on. So like the fish also help with the growing of the plants. So I was glad that they didn't just kind of mention that so that people could think, oh, well, that's why the fish are there. I thought it was good that they did address the fact that they are going to kill these animals. But obviously that was really uncomfortable because I was just like, well, don't do that. And it doesn't feel very fitting. First and foremost, it doesn't feel very Disney. It doesn't feel very Disney to be like, just so you know, guys, we're killing all these animals. Like, it doesn't feel very Disney. And because Living with the Land is all about like doing less harm and how do we work with nature instead of destroying nature. So that kind of, I feel like, doesn't fit in. It's quite jarring because they're like there's a big focus on humans have done a lot of damage because of farming and agriculture and stuff, and now we're trying to redress that so that we don't carry on doing that. And then they're like, but also we just love killing animals. So I would say that was uncomfortable, but it isn't, you aren't there long. And in some ways I do think it is good that Disney are open about that instead of trying to cover it up. And it's like, I also did the Caring for Giants tour because Animal Kingdom is a difficult park as a vegan because essentially it is a zoo. You can visit Animal Kingdom and not see any animals. It is done in a way that it can still feel like a theme park rather than a zoo. And of course the animals are, you know, they're not in cages. It definitely feels like a better quality environment. But when I did Caring for Giants, they also addressed the fact this is a zoo. And I thought that was actually really honest, that they're not trying to like sugarcoat things or like whitewash over them. They were like upfront. And actually that was really good because you got to find out how they care for the animals. And it did make me feel better about the situation because they were even saying amazing things, like, which is very weird. They were like, when they feed the elephants, they put edible glitter in their food that's a different colour, so that when the elephant poops, they know the poop, which elephant it comes from, based on the glitter in the poop. But they were saying why that's really important is they check, obviously, like their microbiome, check for any illness, but they also check cortisol to see their stress levels and how the animal is coping. And if the cortisol is raised, they try and work out, do they need more enrichment? Is there something going on within the like the herd that, you know, they're not happy about? Like, what can we do? So actually that made me feel really good that they really prioritise the welfare. And they were also talking about how they have a hands-off approach. So no one ever touches the elephants. So what they've done is they've trained elephants. So say, for example, they need to check, are their feet okay? Are their nails okay? They've trained them through sound and rewards of giving them food to put their like feet up through the bars so that they can be looked at. But the keepers never go in the enclosures or touch the animals. They kind of keep it hands off and a more natural approach. So that tour I thought was really, really interesting because it does give you a good insight into how they're caring for the animals. But yeah, living with the land is difficult because it isn't a big part of it, but I kind of did appreciate that they were upfront about what was happening. It's just obviously I don't want to hear that, but I did think it was good so that people on the tour knew what was happening, particularly kids, you know, so that kids do learn that is, you know, how you're getting your food sort of thing. So I did think that was well done. Yes, Victoria, you're so right. A lot of the people that do like vegan Disney accounts really, really love the flatbread. So I don't know why I had such a different opinion, but I was literally like, this is awful. It was so bad. So, and it could be like, because I went like the second day, it could be that they're still testing how to cook it. So it could be that maybe the bread does get grilled, so maybe the texture's a bit better. So it could be that actually other people have had really good experiences, and maybe if I went back, but I just don't think I'd go back. I'm like, I'll just eat somewhere else, it's fine. It's a nightmare. Oh, this is a great question from Lisa. What was your best, the funniest, the saddest, and the most surprising moment? Oh, this is so fun. The best is so hard because there's so many best moments. But I definitely say our meetup was incredible. Us having the whole of Galaxy's Edge to ourselves was incredible. Getting to see Fantasmic for the first time was incredible. Seeing the fireworks from behind the castle was such a highlight moment. Honestly, it was so good. I think the saddest moment is obviously leaving. And like literally, like it was so, I was like, you've got to try and keep it together. And I knew I was going to cry, but I was like, you've got to try and get a lid on this. It's just getting out of control. And I think like I'm going to have to film like a kind of outro because I was just like crying. And I think I just kind of just didn't even finish my sentence. I just got too upset. And so the vlog series would just end mid-sentence if I don't film something that's a proper outro. So I think when I will film one that kind of gives an overview of the trip. Oh, the funniest moments. Oh, this is so hard. Oh, I don't know. Do you know what I really loved? And it made me laugh every single time. Country Bear Jamboree. I am obsessed. I went every single time I was in Magic Kingdom. It's the one thing that I couldn't skip. This was my Guardians of the Galaxy. And because when they said they were changing it and they were like, we're going to replace it with Disney songs, I was like, this does not sound like it's going to be good. It is brilliant. The way they have done it is absolutely fantastic. And I was full blown obsessed. I howled with laughter every single time. I also think one of the funniest moments of the trip was Halloween Horror Nights, which was both terrifying and hilarious. It's just a mixture of screaming and then laughing hysterically because you got so scared. But that was such a fun night, and so many funny moments. And I think the surprising moments were things like, again, I hate to keep saying it, but they were two like core moments. Were us doing Ogre's Cantina and closing down the park, because to literally have no one else around was amazing. And also the fireworks in Fantasyland, because I just had never thought of doing it, and it was so good. It was so good. But yeah, it is interesting, Victoria. They could kind of, because again, they do have the fish are friends, not food slogan at Disney, and then they're like, not these fish though. They're definitely food. But like I said, I think it's kind of good that they don't sugarcoat it. They do kind of address it. But I also think it's difficult because I think, you know, as someone who was non-vegan for most of my life, there is a disconnect. And when you hear like, oh, they're going to be killed for food, you think, okay, fine. You don't really kind of connect with it. Whereas like people who are vegan are like, don't do it, don't do it. But like I said, because they were kids on the tour, I did think it was good that they kind of heard it, so that they know they're not here for show and whatnot, and they're not just kind of helping grow the plants. They are here to be eaten, which was so sad. But I do think they do need to change that. Because even when you're on the Living with the Lamb ride, it's just a bit like, oh, it doesn't fit the message, where the message is about don't cause harm. But then they're like, fish, nah, you can harm them. It is very weird. Yes, Simon, you definitely need to go see Country Bear Jamboree. And it's interesting because I can totally understand kind of why they had to change it, because the original attraction was brilliant and it had all original songs. But I remember the last time I saw it was 2018, and it was a really funny moment and everyone laughed. But one of the bears was singing about how her husband had done her wrong, so she shot him. And I did remember thinking, this is hilarious, but it doesn't feel very Disney, which is why I think they changed it. But then when they said Disney songs, I thought, oh no, because I just thought they were just going to be singing Disney songs. But the way they have done it is brilliant. I am obsessed. I need to become like the president of the fan club. This is going to be my new packing cubes. It's going to be my new obsession. But it's so, so good. I've had a great question about, are you glad you stayed at All Star Music, and what do you like about it the most? And I loved All Star Music. What I really like is that it's quite small in size. So I was in one of the buildings farthest away from the restaurant and the reception, everything like that. But it was like a 5-minute walk maximum. So it was so convenient because you were so handy to get everywhere. It was quiet, didn't hear any noise, which was fantastic. And it's also got loads and loads of parking. So I was able to park right next to my building. So getting to the room was easy. All 3 All-Star resorts are next to each other, and they're all exactly the same, apart from the facades. So I would pick based on which facade you like the most. For some reason, movies tends to be more expensive. So if that facade is really important to you, you might want to pay the extra, but I would just say go for the cheapest one. I definitely think having a car helps, because otherwise you do have the buses. Now, they do have the buses that go to all of the different parks, so you can get there, it's not a problem. However, I think it can get busy, because if you're going at peak times, obviously more people are trying to get on the buses, but I do think they put on more buses at peak times as well, because they know that. And yeah, the downside is obviously if you say somewhere like Pop, you also have the Skyliner, which I think is such a massive benefit, because first and foremost, it's a joy to go on, but to get to Epcot and Hollywood Studios so easily is so good. So if you are wanting a value resort with better options, I would definitely say do Pop. Art of Animation is a value resort that has the price of like a moderate resort, because they have a lot of family suites. So I wouldn't recommend that unless maybe you do need more people in a room, and then it might work out financially okay because there's more of you. But if you're just like normal, like 1 person, 2 people, or even 4 people, sometimes Art of Animation is unbelievably expensive. So Pop can be the great middle ground. But I think the All-Star resorts are great, particularly if you're a solo traveller, because they're most affordable. The rooms are super, super comfortable. I really like that you have the double bed and then you have the pull-down bed. So if there are more of you, you've got that extra double bed. But if not, you've got a whole table and chair set, which is fantastic and makes the room feel a bit bigger, which is great. I can't fault them. Like, I absolutely love them. they don't have loads of Disney theming in the rooms, but this is something you're seeing across the board in Disney World. They're taking the Disney theming out of the rooms massively, which I want it to look like Disney's being sick on the room. Like, I want more theming, whereas they're kind of making them a bit too generic to me. Like, if I want to stay at Hilton, I'll stay at Hilton. If I stay at Disney Hotel, I want that. So, like, I was like, okay, all they had was kind of like some pictures on the walls, which it's fine. It's fine. It's a Value resort, but I'd be more upset if you pay to stay at a deluxe resort and then it feels like you're at Hilton because you've paid so much to stay there. So you're like, it's fine, but I absolutely love them. I think the small size is great. The food court's great. There's so much on offer. The food's really, really good. It's like they do have burgers, pizzas, etc., but they also have interesting options. And even stuff like, I had a plant-based burger there, but it was like a Korean burger, which was delicious. So I can't fault the All-Star Resorts. Absolutely love them. Lisa, you absolutely love Pop Century. Yes, it's so cool. Love the theming as well. So good. And that Skyliner is just the best. And yes, Simon, you genuinely felt like you're waiting less time for buses at All Stars than when you were at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And that's so interesting because my last trip, I did 2 weeks at All Stars and then 3 nights at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And I love Animal Kingdom Lodge as a hotel. I don't think I would ever stay there again, simply because the amount you pay, I don't think you get that back in the value. And like, it's a beautiful resort. The Savannah is absolutely incredible. However, the resort is much, much bigger, so it takes much longer to get everywhere. And it was really noisy because, I think it's because All Stars, it's separate buildings and like only the people on your floor are going to be walking past your room, if that makes sense. Whereas where Animal Kingdom is just one really big hotel, you've always got people walking past because they're trying to get to other parts of the hotel, etc., etc. So it was noisy as well. And I was like, oh, for how much extra you spend, like Guy was saying earlier, you don't really get extra benefits. My controversial Disney opinion is probably, I don't know if deluxe resorts are worth it. I think the way I did it, where I literally stayed at the resort, so I didn't go to the parks, I just explored the resort, went to the pool, ate in all the restaurants, is the way to do it. If I was in the parks a lot, I don't think they give you the value, because like God was saying, you don't get extra benefits staying there, and they're so much more expensive. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one. But yeah, I love that everyone totally agrees about the theming. We need all of the theming. I don't want them. I did read that the woman who's now in charge of kind of re-theming the resorts, she previously worked as someone who designed hospital waiting rooms. And I'm like, well, it totally makes sense now that why there's a lot of like very generic white rooms kind of popping up. And like even like new coffee shops and restaurants, they're all very basic, and I'm like, well, it makes sense if someone's had a background in making basic, boring spaces while she's going that way. But I'm like, bring back the Imagineers, because they knew what they were doing. We don't need all these corporate people that are taking the Disney out of Disney. And you're like, what's the point? If I go to Disney, I want it to be Disney. It's so true. Yes, Simon, Animal Kingdom Lodge was your dream hotel and you've done it twice. Love it, but it's not worth the money hike. More than happy with All Stars. Yeah, I think it's so interesting, isn't it? Because I was the same. I was like, this is my dream resort. And it was nice to stay there, but I don't think I ever need to stay there again. And yeah, it's surprising because you do think, you kind of think, once I go to a deluxe, I won't be able to go back. But I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, All Stars is where it's at. If you're out all day, value resorts are great. It's absolutely perfect. They're much more affordable and they've got everything you need. So yeah, totally can't big up value resorts enough. Sarah, you loved the princess rooms at Port Orleans for theming. Yes, they are so cute because again, like you say, they're really Disney. They have the fireworks that light up in the headboard, which is so good. And I love that there's loads of like touches, like you get the like magic carpet from Aladdin. Like there's all like different Disney touches in those rooms, and I'm like, that's what I think all Disney hotel rooms should look like. Not just those like special rooms, all the rooms need to look like that, but they look stunning. Oh, and they also had a letter from Tiana waiting for you. That's lovely. That's so cute. What a lovely little touch. That's perfect. And Laura, you say you advise your clients the exact same way. Deluxe hotels are your hotel to chill and relax in, but value resorts are the place to be. And that's such a good point. For a taste of deluxe at a moderate price, stay at Coronado. I've had loads of people really rave about Coronado. And I think what's really great about it is, like you say, you kind of get the deluxe feel, but it's a moderate price. And it also feels like a bit of more of an adult resort because, like, the theming tends to be a bit more adult. So if you're looking for somewhere that's, like, a bit luxury, but at a moderate price, I think that sounds incredible. Like, it's the way forward. I can't believe it. And the thing is, like, Value Resorts, I was expecting a lot of families to be there because obviously they're the most affordable. But again, I was so surprised at how quiet they were. I was like really, really, really impressed. I do know sometimes All Star Sports, if there's cheer events going on, a lot of the cheerleaders will be staying at All Star Sports. I should imagine that's not particularly quiet. But apart from that, or if you really like the idea of seeing American cheerleaders, because obviously that's such a novel thing, and they like practice out on the grass, then that could be a really fun time to go. But yeah, I was so impressed because I was expecting it to be so noisy at Value Resort, but it was not. Both times I've been there, it's been so peaceful, which is great. Oh, this is actually from Simon, which I think is a great question. What are your tips for surviving the Universal scare houses? I'm trying really hard to not make Universal's Halloween Horror Nights my entire personality because I am now full-blown obsessed. And it was one of those things I was nervous to go because, so I'm someone who loves horror, love horror films, love everything about it. However, when I was probably 7 or 8, I had a terrible experience in a haunted house. So in Portsmouth, our haunted house was awful. It was literally just black painted walls with like a skeleton or a ghost painted on the walls. It was terrible, not frightening at all. And for my friend's birthday, we'd gone for a meal with her family, and then they took us to the fun fair. And we went on the haunted house. It's one where you're like sat in a little car, and you know there's a ghost painted on the wall. However, this time as we were partway through, a man came through with an axe, and I was like, brilliant. They finally stepped it up. They're trying to make it more scary. This feels more scary. However, we got outside, pandemonium. No one knows who this man is. The police are coming. And I was like, what? So I am very frightened of haunted houses. I'm very frightened of if I see you go behind a doorway and I know you're going to jump out at me, I still scream. I still get scared. So I was like, I am not going to cope well with this at all because it's darkness, lots of people jumping out at you, scary. What's it going to be like? What was interesting to me is I think that there's 2 types of people. I'm someone who scares easily, but I love it. Like, I'm all nervous and like, oh, what's it going to be like? But after it happens, I laugh, I think it's funny, and I loved the whole experience. I think if you're someone that does not like horror, does not like being jumped out at, you would hate it. Because it is just relentless. And it's one of the things, I would come out of every single house, my heart was pounding, I could feel an adrenaline rush, like, you really feel alive, it's amazing. But it was that thing of, like, doing that 10 times over, it's hard on your body. Which sounds ridiculous, like, you've put yourself through it. But it's so fun at the same time. And like, I was really impressed with the scare zones as well, because you've got 10 houses and 5 scare zones, and they were so fun. But I would say it definitely depends on the type of person you are. So if you scare easily, I think you will really enjoy it. However, if you hate horror or people jumping out, it's not going to be for you. Particularly what's interesting is because they have the conga line system. So you have to be single file. So you can't have someone stood next to you that you can hold onto or anything like that. You have to be single file. And what's interesting about that is they ask you to constantly keep moving. Because what would happen is some people would try and hold back so that they get these scares. Because what happens is all of the houses have storylines. And obviously there'll be some things where there's audio, maybe there's a character talking, something like that. And the scare actors obviously are working to that. So what would happen is in some of the houses, you would be the person who, when the loud noise goes off and someone jumps out, you'd be the person receiving it. And you'd be like, oh. Other times, it would be the person just in front of you. And what was interesting is you then got different experiences. So if it happens to the person in front of you, you could take in the storyline. Well, I could take in the storyline more. Because when I was the one being scared, I didn't know what was going on because I was just so scared. However, when it was happening to people in front of me, I could really appreciate the storyline and what was happening because I was actually looking at the details because I wasn't the one that was being frightened. But it's also really fun if you're the person being frightened. I I don't know how fun it was for Shelby. I think it would either be really funny to visit with someone like me, because you're like, oh my god, like, can't wait to see how she's going to react. Or you'd be like, can you calm down? And Shelby is cool as a cucumber. And what I love though, she loves Halloween Horror Nights. She goes like 5 nights a week. So she knows it really, really, really well. So what was fun is when we went, she was like, oh, you should go first, because where she knows what's coming and whatnot, she didn't want to kind of give anything away. At first, I was like, I didn't want to say anything, but I was terrified. I was like, I have to go first. I'm the first line of defence. I can't cope as the first line of defence. But actually, it was really, really fun, because where I didn't know what to expect, you got to have the whole experience. Whereas I think if I had been behind her, you would have kind of known what was coming. But what is also interesting, in some of the houses, and she had warned me in advance, she was like, in the Insidious house, first and foremost, it's the scariest house here. I've actually seen since people say it's the scariest house in 10 years, which it was absolutely brilliant. But she'd had warned me in advance that that's the sort of house, if you're someone who reacts, they will target you. And I was like, we all know what's going to happen in here. And but actually it really made the experience special. But it was very funny, because I was just like, the audio is hysterical, so I can't wait to put that out there. But I would say, if you're very, very nervous, I think there's a few options. One, you can do the lights on tour in the daytime. So you can pick, I think there's one where it's some of the houses, there's another one where it's like all or most of the houses, and they walk you through and you see everything with the lights on, so you kind of get to see the layout but also hear about how they design the houses, the storyline, stuff like that. So that can give you a good idea of what's going to happen, so that when you go through it you kind of already know. If you're a group of people who have never been before, you might want to have like the bravest person at the front, if you would prefer, because I think in your groups, whoever's in the front is the one that's going to get the reactions and the scares. So you could always put them first. You could go, you have to be the first line of defense. But I also think if it's just something, if you really do not enjoy horror or being scared, it might not be the one, because it is very frightening. But if you love being scared but you just scare easily, and you know you're going to react, you're going to have a blast, because it's so good. Yes, Laurie, you went to a scare horror night at Wimmering Manor. What was it like? Was it good? And that's the thing, I've never done anything really like that. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Fright Night at Thorpe Park. So it'll be really interesting to see how the UK version holds up. But I feel like in America, they just do Halloween so much better than us. And I feel like there's very few things we have in the UK that are going to be on the level with Halloween Horror Nights. But it'll be interesting to see how Thorpe Park do it and what it's like. So very excited for that. That's only like 4 scare mazes, so it's a bit more manageable. Although I feel like it's quite expensive. I think it's like £72 or something, but you only get 4 houses. Whereas the base ticket for Halloween Horror Nights was £68, and that's 10 houses, a show, and 5 scare zones. Although I would say, like I mentioned earlier, 100% get the Express Pass. 100%. I wouldn't do Halloween Horror Nights without the Express Pass. And the Express Pass is expensive. I think the Express Pass cost me about £120, and that's on top of the ticket. But, like I say, queuing 15 minutes maximum for any of the houses. We did all 10 houses that night, all 5 scare zones. Like, it was worth every single penny. It was so worthwhile. And I also did Scream early, so you can also pay, I think it was about $40, so much more affordable, and you can enter the park from 3 p.m. So from 3 till about 5 p.m. you can just do whatever you want in the park, go on rides, have the experience. From about 5 o'clock you can start queuing. You get to go into set waiting areas, so there's one in New York. And what's interesting is once you're in that area, you're actually free to do anything. You can eat, you can shop, you can have drinks, or you can start queuing for certain houses. So what some people will do is they will just get Scream early, they won't get Express. And what they'll do is they'll start queuing for some houses. And then what happens is at 6 o'clock, when everyone else is first being let in the gate and being scanned in, etc., you can normally knock out a few houses quite quickly. So if you don't want to do the Express Pass, that's definitely worthwhile doing. However, because we had Express, what was great about Scream Early is I got to be in the New York area early. But I went and got a drink. I sat down. Everyone else was stood on their feet. I was just relaxing. And at that time, the first kind of scare zones were coming to life. So I got to have lots of fun with the scare actors in that scare zone, but I wasn't queuing for anything. But it also meant I had a few hours before where I got to go and do a few things in the park. So again, I thought that was really, really worthwhile. But Express is the one. Express is the absolute one. You can get everything done in one night and you'll be comfortable. You'll have time. We had time to sit down, to have drinks. We had a meal in Diagon Alley. Like, we had time to do stuff. So it was great. Yes, Donna, you were like, I could never, I'd have PTSDs and nightmares for a week. Yes, and I think that's the thing. It definitely depends on the type of person you are when it comes to like horror and scares. Because I thought I was going to struggle, and it's one of those things that I did react massively, but it's because I realised that I scare easily. So I was like, oh, I love this though. Look, I'm thriving. This is the best. But I could totally see how it would be, like you say, an absolute nightmare if you are not into that at all. Laurie says that Wimmering Manor was fun but not scary. Thorpe Park is okay for scare nights but not as good as Tully's. Yes, everyone seems to think that Tully's is the best. I've got a friend that goes every single year, and that feels like the one that's most on the level with US scares. So yeah, Tully's seems like the one. So yes, Simon, you like the theming of horror but don't like the feeling of the build up to the jump scare. So I'd be really nervous, but I'd like to think I'd laugh about it afterwards. And I think that's the thing. Yeah, I'm kind of the thing. I was doing this weird thing where I was like scrunched over, shuffling through. So I had this protective stance as I was like walking around, and I was like hyper vigilant. And then there'd be a scare, and you'd scream and whatnot. But afterwards, you think it's really, really funny. So yeah, I think you'd actually be okay, because I feel like I'm the same. Like, the anticipation of someone jumping out of you is the scary part. Like in the Insidious house, there was, if you've ever seen the Insidious films, this kid goes into the place called The Further, and there's all dead people, and they all kind of swarm around him and come up to him. In the Insidious house, you walked into this room, and there was just tons of people stood. Now, obviously, some of them are mannequins, but some of them are real people. And I thought, I can't walk through this. Like, I can't, because I know some of these are real people. So I was like a horse. I put blinders on, and I ran. Because what happened is, you're supposed to, like I say, you're not meant to stop. But I got paralysed with fear. But I was someone, when they were like, make sure you're close to the person in front of you, I was like 6 inches behind the person in front of me. Because I was like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I need someone to be in front of me. I can't be left to my own devices. But that bit, I panicked. So then I just had to run. Because I was like, I can't look. It was just too frightening. But it was brilliant. It was so good. Yes, Donna, you'd react visibly, you'd be shaking, crying, and they'd go harder. And I think that's the thing. I do feel like the scare actors are brilliant. So, like, when they saw someone like me who was screaming and whatnot, there was another bit in the Insidious house where the lipstick demon, or the red demon, whatever you want to call it, he's constantly jumping out. The Insidious house was insane for the amount of jump scares. Like, it was absolutely nuts. And I was like, like looking side to side. So I didn't even notice in front of me. And there was a bit where the demon, he ran straight forward. And I've since watched houses, like walkthroughs, when on the first night you can film in there. And normally it would just be, he'd jump out and, you know, people would, it's funny. But he jumped out, saw me freeze and scream, and then he carried on running at me, and he was like in my face, and I just was screaming, just couldn't move. And that was really, really fun, actually, because it was that thing of, they saw they got a reaction, so they went harder. But I do think if they saw someone who was really distressed, they would leave you. I don't think they'd kind of torture you, sort of thing. I think if they can see this person is someone very reactive and scares easily, we can have fun with this, because it must be very hard. I mean, massive props to the scare actors, because they are literally doing the same acting like 1,000 times a night, the same sort of thing. So I think for them it must actually be really fun when you get a reaction, because I was surprised at how many people didn't react. Like, honestly, some houses you might hear someone in front of you go, oh, whereas I was like screaming like I was being murdered, like it was ridiculous, and I was like, oh, this isn't normal. But I don't know how other people are just walking through not reacting. I don't know how people are doing it. But I do think, oh, Sorry about that, but I do think they wouldn't intentionally try and really, really upset someone if they thought they were struggling. So yeah, massive props to them because it was so much fun. And stuff like I say, the scare zone's hilarious. That my favourite one was called the Torture Fair, and it was kind of all medieval stuff. So they had like animatronics, like there was one that was like hung upside down, he had all food stuffed in his mouth and he was kind of suffocating on the food. There was a like big metal box thing where there was like steam coming out of it and you could hear someone screaming inside. But then they also had like a stage set up, and they'd have scare actors walking through the crowd, so like someone that was in like stocks and stuff like that, and they'd like come up to you, and it was so fun. But again, like I think they can kind of judge who they can go for and who they won't. So yeah, that was so fun. But I am so obsessed. But yeah, you love horror movies, but you're safe because you know you're watching a film. That's so true. Whereas in a haunted house, it's too real. And I do think that is the big difference, isn't it? And like I said, that's what I was most nervous about, because after having that experience as a kid, where you literally didn't know if someone was safe or not, it's frightening. But yeah, Halloween Horror Nights does it so well. And like I say, I loved that the houses had storylines. It's not just scare after scare. Like, they all have a storyline. Although something that's interesting to mention, because this is something I'd never considered. As we all probably know by now, I have a emetophobia, which is a phobia of vomit. I had never even considered that vomiting might be part of the houses. So just before I went, someone was like, oh, I've done an emetophobics guide to Halloween Horror Nights. And I was like, what? Because it wasn't something I considered. Now, I have to say, I coped fine. Like, I was not freaked out, not panicking, not triggered, anything like that. However, twice people were sick on me. One of them was a mannequin, and it was in the Insidious house, so it was like there was a head above you that was like vomiting water, and obviously you had to kind of time it so that you'd run through so you wouldn't get wet. There was one house though where you walk into Slaughterhouse Cinema and there's a guy sat on a sofa who's obviously drunk. And then as I went to walk past him, he leant forward and he spat water out as if he was being sick on you. And that's a lot. That's a lot. Like, I wasn't freaked out by it, because immediately as I was thinking, oh my god, that's gross, someone's just spat on me, someone jumped out at me, so I immediately forgot about that. But that wasn't something I thought I'd have to consider. And it was very visceral. There was a lot happening. But something I did like is the actors will not touch you. I have spoken to someone, and they were talking about a house that they went to where the actors would actually touch you, and I could not cope with that. And I do think that is because some people will instantly react, and I think that's also putting the actors in danger. So I do think at Halloween Horror Nights is great. They won't, they jump at you, but they will never touch you. They will never, you'll never physically be in danger, which is what I was trying to tell myself when going around the house. Hiya! Oh my gosh, yes, the rain is a nightmare, isn't it? But Dartmoor, beautiful place. But the rain is not okay. It's been very miserable, hasn't it? It's not the one. It definitely feels very like winter is coming. It's just the worst. But I had a question as well. Are you going to do a haul video? Which I absolutely am. I didn't think I bought much this trip until I got home, and then I unpacked and I was like, oh, that looks like a lot more than I thought it was. Again, it's mostly clothing because, I justify it. Like, if I wear that 100 times, that's basically free. So that cost me like 30p. So that's brilliant. So I'm definitely going to do that. Something else I did is I bought loads of accidentally vegan snacks that you can only get in the US. So I'm going to do a taste test video where I kind of put them head to head. So I've got like different Oreo flavors, different types of crisps, different kinds of sweets and stuff like that. So I can put them head to head, like who's going to win the battle of the best vegan snack. So I think that's going to be so fun to film. But it's been very difficult because I haven't filmed it yet. So these snacks have been looking at me for a week and I haven't been able to eat any of them. So I need to film that soon so I can start eating, which will be amazing. Oh, there's some really good time. What were the ride wait times like? And this is something that I did find interesting because some of the ride wait times were very low and some rides were very, very high. So it'd be funny because you'd be in Magic Kingdom and like most of the rides would be like 10-15 minutes and then some rides would be like 70 minutes. There was no middle ground. However, I would say party nights in Magic Kingdom were so much better. The ride wait times were much more manageable. Non-party nights, the ride wait times were very, very long. And there was no rhyme and reason, because like I say, some days, like one of the Epcot days, like Living with the Lamb was over an hour, which is just insane. And yeah, there was no rhyme and reason. So it definitely was busier than other Septembers, but it's definitely still quieter than like peak season. So yeah, it swings and roundabouts, but I definitely think Multipass can help you have a more consistent experience, because you know with Multipass you're not going to queue more than like, most rides it's walk on if I'm honest, but if you're unlucky, 15 minutes. So yeah, Multipass is good for consistency. You just have a more steady pace of your day. Ooh, this is good. What did you overpack and underpack? Something, I'm trying to think. Clothing wise, I didn't overpack. I was actually impressed. Once I got there, I was like, oh, all of these outfits I kind of ended up wearing. I would say something, not that I overpacked, but something I'm glad I packed was a personal fan. Because I had this little like handheld fan. It's got 3 speeds from Amazon, about £15. It helped so much. The difference when it was roasting hot, it really, really did help you cool down. Because literally, like everyone was struggling, even local people were struggling. So I was like, this is intense. But those fans work wonders, like so much better than you would imagine. And also taking a memory bank, sorry, not a memory bank, a power bank, because you are using your phone a lot. And also, like I had my camera, so you were using stuff. And luckily for me, I went back to the room and did my afternoon break. So often I would charge things then, it wouldn't be a problem. But some days where I stayed out later, you absolutely needed to charge your devices. Like you couldn't, if you were going to go do park open to park close, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you were, you would not be able to use your phone. Like it would run out of battery. You definitely need a power bank. So those are the 2 things I'm like, I'm so glad I packed them, because they made like the biggest impact on the trip. And also an umbrella. I hate a poncho. They're too hot to wear, particularly in that heat. Like, because when it's raining, it's still really hot. Whereas an umbrella, you get that protection, but you're much cooler. So, and also I have a UV umbrella. So when it's very, very hot, you can also use it as shade. It reflects the sun. Definitely get a UV umbrella. It's perfect. But so did I underpack anything? My problem is I overpack everything. I definitely overpacked the amount of breakfast items. I took stuff with me and I did not need as much, so a lot of it I ended up bringing back, which was a nightmare because I just went to America for a holiday. Didn't need to do that. But it's one of those difficult things. Although they sell food in America. Like, I could have bought stuff there. I don't know why I think, right, I better take everything with me for breakfast just in case. Because I'm like, they have shops. They have things you can buy. But I definitely overpacked that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I overpacked or underpacked. I definitely took too many pairs of ears. Because you end up kind of wearing ears. I think getting ears that match a lot of outfits is the way forward. Or, so like I had some ears that matched a lot of outfits. So I probably used 3 or 4 ears the most. There was one ears that I took just for one outfit, which was great to wear, but it's kind of a bit pointless taking them all that way for just one outfit. But I think you can take too many ears. And also like bags and stuff. Like I used my backpack the whole trip and it did everything I needed. Like, I know it's tempting to kind of take different bags, different backpacks and stuff like that, but it can just take up a lot of space in your case because you're not going to end up using as many as you think you will. So I think that's super, super easy to do. Yes, Simon, the no touching thing is something you have to remind yourself. Yes, exactly, because they cannot touch you, they cannot harm you, they're just there to jump out at you, which is great. Yes, Lisa, the fan was so important. What you overpacked clothes, because we could wash our clothes at the resort, which is so true. Like, if you're staying for a longer trip, all the hotels have laundry services that, like, they have actual laundry rooms that you can go in and pay, which is fantastic. And yes, you're so right. You took Ziploc bags because sometimes the food was too much. And 100%, that's what I did. I went to the dessert party with my Ziploc bag. And it was funny because everyone else was kind of like eating their desserts, but like struggling. And then because I knew I was getting this vegan plate, so I knew there was probably going to be too many desserts. Because obviously, if you're just doing the buffet, you can just choose how many things you want to eat. Because I knew I was going to get this plate to myself, I knew it was going to be too much. So I took my little Ziploc bag, but I did feel quite cheap, like putting all of the things in the Ziploc bag. But I had them for breakfast, so that was all good. It worked out. I'd paid my $100. I was going to get my $100 worth. But I think you're so right, because so many snacks and meals are massive. If you have Ziploc bags, you can just save things for later. You get your money stretched further. It's perfect. Yes, it's so true. You feel like you're in your grandma era, but it's fine. But I 100% agree. 100%. It's the way forward. It's the way to do things. You're like, look, I'm saving things for later. But also, in American culture, it's very normal to have like leftovers. So I feel like it shouldn't be that weird. I feel like American people would think it's quite normal to do that, but I suppose it's a bit unusual for us. So we feel like silly doing it. But you're like, I've paid for it, so I'm gonna get my money's worth, which I absolutely love. Oh, I had a really interesting question, which I actually think is really important. And I was asked, are EpiPens allowed in the parks? And you absolutely can. There will be no problems whatsoever. Sometimes, when you are going into the parks, they scan you. And if you've got things like umbrellas and stuff, it will set the alarm off. So they do say take it out of your bag and hold it in front of you. However, if you've got multiple things that set the alarm off, you're just going to have to accept you're going to be checked. So it could be, if your bag's ever checked, they might just ask what it is, but you can absolutely take EpiPens. They won't have any problem with any medical devices that you need. Absolutely take them with you and it'll be absolutely fine. It's also worth noting, first aid is really good in the parks. So say, even if it was stuff like you had a headache or you felt motion sick, if you go to first aid, they will give you medicine for free. They won't even charge you. And I do know someone who had, I'd seen online, a lady had gone to Disneyland in Anaheim, and she'd, like, you know when you misjudge stairs and you kind of forget the last one, and then you end up kind of falling, but it feels like you're falling from 100 feet, even though it's like tiny. But she actually quite badly hurt her ankle. And they have like nurses and stuff inside Disney, and they had a nurse come and tend to her. They strapped her up, they gave her medicine. Everything was absolutely free of charge. You didn't get charged. So if you do ever have anything medical, don't be afraid of going to first aid, because they're going to be really helpful and they will actually do a lot of stuff for free. Because I know that is a worry when you visit the US of how much medical things do cost. But Disney are very, very good. And if, for whatever reason, they needed to get external help, they would obviously let you know, we might have to call an ambulance and it will cost, I don't know, whatever. But there's a lot of things you can get for free. So don't feel like you have to suffer in silence. If you need plasters or pain medication or motion sickness, you can go there and they will sort you out, which is fantastic. And also, a lot of the resorts, all of your little shops will have, if you've left anything behind or you need, like, pain medicine and stuff, they will have that on sale, which is good to know. Oh, let's have a look at other questions. Oh, Donna, you've had some amazing questions. I'm anxious about navigating MCO. How hard or easy is it? I find MCO really easy to navigate. So what's really good is when you land, obviously they've got the signs that are telling you to go towards immigration. Because I landed later in the evening, there was no queue. I literally got seen straight away. Literally right behind immigration is the baggage carousels, so you can't get lost. Like, they are literally right behind you. And then it's really well signposted for things like taxis, car hire, if you were getting the magical shuttle. Well, it's not called the magical shuttle there, is it now? They've got rid of that. But if you were getting Mears and stuff, you would easily be able to find it. And the same when you get back to the airport. It's very, very well signposted. Everyone, like, I've always gone through the exact same security part, and then the gates are very easily signposted to find. So I find it quite easy to navigate, which is really, really good, because some airports are just vast and sprawling, and MCO is a big airport, but it's very easy to get around, and it doesn't feel like, it's like there's loads of different areas and that's got to go that way and that, and it can be like, oh my god. Whereas this, it feels like you've got like a main hub and things like come off of it. So it's very, very easy to get around. So I wouldn't worry. I think you're going to find it simple to get around, which is good. And how do you balance your time between the parks? Do you park hop or do a day in each? And I think this is really down to personal preference. But what I tend to do is I tend to plan to do one park a day. But what I always do is the afternoon break. So what's really good about that is you rest your feet, you have more energy, like just the day's much better. And then it means in the evening you can either go back to that park or you can park hop, you can do whatever. So it's good because then you can kind of get a sense of, oh, if I did a lot that I wanted to do in that park in the morning, maybe in the evening I will park hop and do something else. So it kind of gives you that flexibility as well. But it's interesting because I know people who every single day they'll do like 5 different things, whereas I will tend to focus on one thing at a time. So I think it just depends what you prefer. I think if you want it to be not as overwhelming, planning to do one park and then, you know, you've got the option of park hopping is good. But some people like the variety. So I know people who will like start the day in an outlet, then they'll go to a park for like lunch, then they'll go to like the water park in the afternoon, then in the evening they'll go to somewhere else, and it's like it feels like a lot, but they love the variety. And whereas I'm like, oh, I like it a bit more simple. So I think it just depends how you kind of fancy doing it. And I think when you're there, you also get a sense of what you prefer. And it's like, that is something that I liked. So like there was a day where originally I was going to go to Hollywood Studios the whole day, but I'd actually done a lot in Hollywood Studios. And I think I'd done like 5 days in the park solid without a break. And I was like, do you know what? Instead of doing a 6th day in the park, I'm going to go to the outlet in the morning, have a relaxing lunch, and then in the evening go back to Hollywood Studios. And that was really, really nice to do that. So I definitely think, we always talk about the importance of rest days, but it's definitely important to have rest days. Even if it's just stuff like, so like I like going to the cinema in Disney Springs, like food and wine is a great rest day, or like an Epcot festival where you're just doing a lot of drinking and eating because it's a lot slower paced. So you can still do loads of things that are in the Disney bubble, but just more restful. But I think it's important to balance. So like when I did like 5 solid park days, that was too many. I think maybe 4 solid days maximum because you need that downtime. And because you're going for 2 weeks, you'll actually fit so much in the parks that you can give yourself more downtime than you anticipate. But you could do what I did, which is plan to do lots of things. And then because you're like, actually, I've achieved quite a lot in that park. Today, I'll have an easy morning and do something else. And then go back to my original plan of going to the park in the evening, which is good. So, yeah, I think it's so easy to think, I've only got 2 weeks, I've got to cram everything in. But actually, when you're there, you've got so much time to do stuff. You do have the luxury of being able to take it a bit easier, which is really, really good. That's so nice. But let me have a little look at the other things. Let's see what we've covered. We've covered quite a lot, which is so good. We should probably touch upon Tiana's Bayou Adventure because we haven't really touched upon it, but I loved it. I thought it was so good. And I know people loved Splash Mountain, so they were kind of upset when it was getting rethemed. But it's also one of those things, like the film that it's, you know, based on, a lot of people kind of under the age of 40 have never seen it. So it makes sense to change it to a film that more people have seen. And although the ride itself was, you know, it was charming and so cute and it's amazing, because of the content of the film, I could see why Disney were like, let's move away from that. And I think it's the perfect replacement. Like, it's such a joyful, uplifting ride. Like, the storyline is great. It's so fun, and it still has all of those elements, because obviously it's the exact same ride, so you've got all of the elements you love, but I really thought it was super cute, and I love the music from the film. So to have so many of those songs playing was so good. I obviously, when they first announced it, was so excited to see Dr. Facilier, and obviously he isn't part of it, but having been on it, I'm like, it wouldn't actually make sense to him for him to be part of it, because it is such a joyful ride. But I loved it. I thought it was so good. I do feel like, though, every single time I was in the back row, twice just by chance, and the third time because I asked for it, because the people in the front 2 or 3 rows were getting soaked. Like, I've been on Splash Mountain front row a couple of times and I got wet, but not to that level. I don't know if they've turned the splash up or something, but people were absolutely drenched. And I was like, yeah, I don't fancy that, so I'm going to go in the back row where you definitely get splashed, but I'm not to the point where you're like, I can't cope and I'm too wet. Yes, you're so right, Lisa. The storyline makes so much sense compared to the old one. And yeah, it's so lovely. And I love Mama Odie and how joyful and positive and uplifting she is. And she features a lot in the ride. And it's great. And they're going to have a storyline about Tiana's trying to find new musicians, and you kind of get shrunk down to a small size so that you kind of meet these animals that are musicians, but you're the same size as them, so then everything's oversized. And then when you're going up towards the big drop, Mama Odie's like, you've got to be big again, because the bigger you are, the bigger the splash will make. And it was just so fun. And look, the ending scene, which is like a party scene, is stunning. Like, it brought tears to my eyes. It's beautiful. So, like, I absolutely loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I thought it was so, so good. Yes, it does smell like beignets at one point, which I was not expecting, and it's so good. Like, it smells amazing. People are definitely going to start making candles based on this, and I'm 100% all about that. I absolutely need it, because it smells incredible. But I loved Tiana. I thought it was so, so worth it. And it's such a great change. Like, I can't understand why people are poo-pooing it. I think it's just some people will never ever like something because they liked the other thing loads and they're just never going to be happy. So they're not objectively looking at, is it a good ride or not? Because it objectively is a good ride. And if it had been built standalone, if it hadn't have been rethemed, people would love it. I also heard a lot of people saying it breaks down a lot, which I didn't experience. From my experience, it didn't break down any more than any other ride. Like, all rides do occasionally temporarily stop. So I don't know if I was just fortunate, but I don't feel like it breaks down. I think it's just one of those things, because people are unhappy with the retheming. They're just like, it breaks down all the time, it's unreliable. And I think they're just trying to pick holes with it. But I always found it working perfectly. It was always good. Simon, you loved Splash Mountain with all your heart, but so excited for Tiana's. Love the ride itself and here for the good feels the new theming brings. Yes, I think you will love it, because, yeah, you've got, like you say, all those elements you love from the ride, but it is just so joyful, and the music's so good, and absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So, yeah, I can't wait for you to experience it, and let us know what you think. It's going to be so good. Also, I want to briefly touch upon Fantasmic, because I'd never seen Fantasmic up until this point. It'd always been one of those things where it was either not happening or... So when I was in Disney World last, it hadn't come back post-pandemic. Then when I went to Disneyland, the dragon set on fire, so it was shut for like nearly a year. So didn't get to see it there. So this time I was like so excited to see it, and I loved it. And do you know what's interesting? Because this had never even occurred to me. Being able to watch a nighttime show whilst sat down is top tier. Because at the end of a Disney day, your feet need a rest. So being able to sit down to watch the show is incredible. But it also means everyone can see. You don't have the stress of Happily Ever After, where you're standing for ages, your feet are killing you, and then you can't see anything because there's phones or there's kids on shoulders or whatnot. So just that already, I was like, this is a top tier show, and it's so uplifting, and like the special effects are incredible, and the song is amazing, and it's so good. So I absolutely loved Fantasmic, and it was so great. I saw it, I think, my third night, and then on my final night, I got to see it again, and I got to meet up with Sarah, and we watched it together, and it was absolutely amazing. So it was the best way to end the trip. To kind of see that, and then afterwards we managed to catch The Wonderful World of Animation, which I'd never seen before again, and it's kind of projected onto Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and that's such a fun show. But then I'm gonna cry talking about it. It's ridiculous. At the end, Mickey Mouse is all like, "We don't say goodbye here, we say see you real soon," and I was like, "Don't say that, Mickey, because I am leaving," and it was just like the perfect ending to the night. Like, oh god, I can't even think about it because it's so emotional, but it was so good. And I think because you had Mickey at the end saying that, if he hadn't have said that, I would just been like, this is a cute show. But because he said that, I was like, well, this is the end. This is the end of the trip, and Mickey's saying it's not the end, and we're gonna see each other again. And it was amazing. So that was a really, really nice way to kind of have the final night of the trip. But like, obsessed with the Fantasmic, obsessed. And actually, what was really fun is one night I was in Magic Kingdom. I went to Casey's Corner, which was also disappointing. To be fair, I've never had a good meal at Casey's Corner. It's an iconic location, but the food's like, it's mid, it's not great. However, the Casey's Corner pianist is incredible, and I happened to be there. So he's all over TikTok as well. I don't know if you've ever seen it on TikTok. Everyone loves him, and he's incredible. So I turned up, and he was doing amazing songs. And then he was like, oh, I'm just going to do one more song. And I was like, perfect. Then he proceeded to do the most incredible medley of Disney songs I've ever heard. But one of them he was doing was Fantasmic. And by this point, I was already obsessed with music. And I was filming, so I had to control myself. But I was having to hold it in so much because I was like wanting to do the Mickey dance and like join in. It was so good. But he's amazing. If you ever get the chance to see him, he's literally outside Casey's Corner. He is brilliant and he takes requests. So if there's any songs you'd like to hear, but he is so fantastic. So I loved seeing him as well. But oh my god, yeah, I love that everyone loves Fantasmic. It really is so incredible. And like just seeing so many Mickeys, I absolutely loved. Like, it was so good. And it's such a unique show as well, which I really love that all of the shows are really different to each other, so they're all worth seeing, which is so good. I love that Simon and Lisa are the same person. This is so fantastic. Hi Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. It was literally the most incredible trip, and like it's just so good. Like so many amazing memories. And that's the thing, even though I had like a cold, you still were having the best time. Because I was just like, oh no, this is gonna be awful. Although I have to say, I don't know what's in American medication, but it is about 1,000 times more effective than anything in the UK. Like, it makes me realise, well, whenever you take cold or flu remedies in the UK, it's like 1% better you feel. In the US, even after one dose, I felt about 50% better. I took it for like a day, I was about 80% better. Like, in the UK, if you get a cold, you've got a cold for 2 or 3 weeks. In the US, I had like maybe 2 days where I was kind of quite ill. After that, so much better. It was unreal. So I feel like next time I go, I'm gonna just buy lots of cold and flu remedy to bring back to the UK for when you inevitably have cold or flu, because their medicine is so much more effective than us. Like, that was so good. Oh my god, you're so right. Mickey does have a way with words, and I think this is the thing. This is how I always judge shows. Does it make me cry? I think a nighttime show is only good if it makes me cry, and not because you're sad per se, but because it's emotional. I think that's something Disney do really well. Even stuff like the music, the way the music swells is what gets me. So I kind of think crying at the end of a day at Disney is like a nice part of the experience, because it is that like when I went to see Happily Ever After, I knew I was going to cry. But I was like, will it be a dignified cry like you'd see on the advert where, you know, you get this profile of the woman and you can see the fireworks and there's like a tear? Or will I look like I'm having a nervous breakdown and people are going to have to be concerned? I was like, it's going one or two ways. And I kind of was in the middle. I wasn't super dignified, but I wasn't like alarming people. I think they just thought, oh, she's just very emotional about the fireworks. But I don't understand people who don't cry. Again, I'm like, how are people regulating their emotions? Because like having Horror Nights, just walking around like it's a normal day, watching the fireworks, just oh that's nice. I'm like, how are you people existing? Because I have no control whatsoever. It's amazing. Yes, Lisa, get Tofuti vanilla ice cream with double peanut sauce and watch The Pianist. Yes, the way forward. And this is the thing, isn't it? Like we were saying earlier, every day at Disney is the best day. Like every single day you're just having the best experience and everything is joyful. You're not hearing anything that's happening in the real world. You've got no worries. Money doesn't mean anything anymore. You're just spending it like you're Beyonce. Like it's incredible. And I think that's why we all connect with Disney so much, because there's nowhere else like it. Like you can't do any other holiday where everything is so positive, everything is so uplifting. And also, like I always say this, but as adults, I think it's so important to have this reminder, because real life is hard and it's depressing and it's stressful. And then you go to Disney and there's no worries. There's no talk about what's happening in the world, like no job stress. And there's that real message about anything is possible. And I think what's great is it's not just the message that anything is possible. Disney World or the Disney parks are the real life embodiment of that. Because Walt Disney was someone who was like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And he did it. So I think it's so important. And I think that's why adults get so much. You can't convince me adults don't enjoy Disney more than kids. Because like kids, I think it's so fun because you're getting to see your favourite characters and the rides are exciting. But particularly if you're coming from overseas to Disney World, It's really hot. They're jet lagged. They're eating food that they're not used to and then being whizzed around on rides. Like, there's loads of kids not having a good time, but it's totally understandable and you can empathise with them because it is a lot. It's very overstimulating. But as an adult, you benefit so. It's like a tonic for your soul. It's just brilliant. And I think that's why it's so hard to leave because you're just like, every day is my best day here. And now I have to go back to the real world and that's not acceptable. Yes, every day feels like a birthday party. That's what it is. It's like every day feels so special. And you're just like, how is it possible? Like, it's not normal that you have like 14 days in a row where everything is incredible. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, every now and then you might have a really special day, but it's not like day after day after day. Whereas at Disney World, it absolutely is, which is so good. Yeah, Jamie, I think you're right. Adults get so much more from a trip like that, which I do agree. And like, you'll see all of these adults living their best lives, and then you'll see these poor kids who are just suffering, and like, you feel so bad for them because it must be really especially like this trip made me think. And obviously, I don't have kids, but taking really small kids to Disney World from overseas is not worth it. Just because I think it's such a change in their routine. It is so. I mean, even adults, you were struggling so much with the heat. I can only imagine how babies were doing who can't regulate their temperature. Um, and I'm like, Disneyland Paris is perfect for little kids because it's much closer. There's not such a huge change in temperature and time. It's much more familiar. I don't know how people are taking kids so far because it must be really stressful for the parents as well because there's a lot going on. But it's not for them. I've decided it's not for them. Don't take them. Wait till they're older and they can understand what's happening and like they're more comfortable. But it's really for adults, is what I'm saying. I really feel like Disney. I definitely think the people who enjoy it the most are adults. And you just see, and that's another thing that's really nice in the Disney parks, is when you see other people having the best time ever, and like just everyone, like stuff that I like at Disney, which you don't have in normal life. Everyone waves at each other. That's not normal, but I love it. Like you just be on a ride waving at people. It's great. Like that's not normal life, but everyone's just so happy, which is wonderful. And to see so many people having the best time is so nice as well. And I love seeing service dogs in the parks and they're having the best time ever. Like seeing I saw a service dog meet Mickey Mouse and the dog could not have been more excited, and I was like, I love that he's having that moment. And like it's just joyful just to see a dog being so happy. And it's just the best. It's just the best. I absolutely love it. Jamie says, I think adults have the nostalgia factor driving their fun and emotions where kids are seeing characters they like, which I think you're totally right about. And actually, a friend had been talking to me about this because they were saying, especially people our age who grew up in the Renaissance where you had the second golden age of Disney and you had like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Lion King, but also you had the big expansion of the parks. So Disneyland Paris opening, Tokyo opening, so it's much more affordable to be able to go. Like, we absolutely say have that nostalgia. But my friend was saying young children, or like even Gen Z, they didn't grow up with that sort of, Disney films were massive and they were like ones that really stuck in their mind and were really impactful. So there is a lot of talk about what will happen, in a couple of decades because you won't have people that have that same connection with Disney. So I think that will be interesting because I think you're so right. I think nostalgia definitely plays a massive part of it. But that's why I also think it's really interesting. This is such an interesting time to be visiting Disney because Disney always typically was a family park, and obviously anyone would visit, but their main consumer was the family, so everything was kind of swayed towards families. And in the past decade, the child-free millennial has become a massive part of their audience. So now they're trying to do things that benefit both groups, which is obviously hard to balance because sometimes they have differing needs. But I think they're doing quite a good job of it, honestly. And I do think that's really interesting. I think the good thing about Disney is like, people like us are going to go to Disney till we literally drop dead. So they're going to have a lot of decades of money coming out of us. So even if like younger generations don't have the same love, I feel like some of them will because they'll have parents that love it and pass it on. But I definitely do think Disney is different now, and hopefully they will have another renaissance, and there'll be a whole new generation of fans that have that love. But I definitely think you're right, nostalgia is huge. Like, they call millennials the nostalgia generation, don't they? So I love it. I love it. I just think you can't get enough of it. Like, it's just so good. It's so good. And I think that's what's interesting when they're now having new rides and finding out which films will be successful enough to make rides and attractions on, because obviously they haven't had like huge hits. Actually, before I went, which was interesting because it's worked out well, but I was watching Behind the Attraction, the episode all about Epcot, and I loved Maelstrom. So if you went to Epcot back in the day, in Norway, the ride used to be Maelstrom and then was rethemed to Frozen. But what I didn't realise is they had already decided to retheme it to Frozen, and the wheels were in motion before Frozen was even released, which is so risky because they had no idea. Like, now we all know Frozen was huge. At the time, they did not expect it to be a massive breakout success. So luckily for them it was, because they'd already decided it was happening. So that worked out well. But it's interesting, like, obviously they're having Encanto, Coco, like, those things are coming into the park. So I'm like, I wonder what other films they will start making rides based on, because there hasn't been any ones that are huge breakout successes. So I think that's going to be really interesting. Yeah, what's mad to me is some kids now with things like Marvel have never known any different. Someone 16 or younger has never lived without the Marvel universe, which is crazy to me, which is so true. It's so true, isn't it? Because their experience is so different. And like, it's even stuff like I love when, like, I've been to Disney with people that had never been to Disney before. And I was like, oh, I remember when Pirates was just the ride, and then they made the films. And they were like, what? So many people think Pirates of the Caribbean came after the films. And you're like, oh, no. They based the whole series on the ride, which I think is so fun. But like you say, it's completely different now, isn't it? Like you say, people are being brought up. They've only ever known Marvel films, so it's like a huge part of their existence. It's so funny. Donna, that's such a good point. How they haven't put a Tangled boat ride in the Germany Pavilion as it was meant to have a boat ride, I don't know how. Which is so true. Like, I wish they would have done that ride in the Germany Pavilion. It's my favourite in Epcot. It's so stunning. And they were going to have a riverboat down the Rhine ride that got scrapped. But like you said, they could absolutely do something with that because they've got the space there. They just have the ability to do it. So I would love that. And I actually think World Showcase could do with more rides, because when I was a kid, I did not enjoy Epcot because I wanted to go on the rides as a kid. You're ride focused. And there's hardly any rides there, it's particularly in World Showcase. Although as an adult now, Epcot's probably like my second favourite park, because walking around World Showcase, eating and drinking is one of the joys of life. It's so good. And yeah, I feel like it's a more adult park in that sense, because there aren't enough rides for like kids to be excited about. But eating and drinking around the world is the best thing ever. But it would be nice if they did have a few more rides. It would be so good. Yes, Lisa, you keep saying I missed it so much during the live stream. How can we not go back next year? And that's the thing, isn't it? It's literally like torture. It's awful because you're just like, I want to go back. I need to be there. I need to be there immediately. I feel like there needs to be like a postcode lottery, but for Disney fans, so that you can like put in your like £2 a week or whatever, and you might win enough to pay to go to Disney, and you'll be like, brilliant. There needs to be some sort. It's essential, I think, because it's like, I don't mean to like overstate it, but it genuinely is good for people. It's, you know, it's such a tonic, like I say. So I feel like it should be prescribed. Maybe we could be given it trips. That would be amazing, because I think it does wonders for people getting to go, which is so nice. But yeah, like there's just nothing like it, and I think that's the thing. Like, Disney World is so big and so huge that I think sometimes it can feel overwhelming, particularly because it needs so much more planning than any of the other parks. Like, in theory, you can just turn up, but you will miss out on a lot, and you will not have the best experience because you'll be waiting a lot for things and stuff. Whereas if you know some tips and advice, the difference it makes to your trip is huge. However, I don't think there's anywhere like it. It is just so so good. And this is something that I do like, that all of the Disney parks, although they have familiarity, they also have their unique personalities. So, which I think makes them all so worthwhile to visit. But there's just something about Disney World where it is just so next level. But it's just stuff like the customer service is incredible. Like, everyone is so friendly. Everyone is so nice. It's just unlike anywhere else. And it's just the best. It's just the best. It's so good. Like, I can't wait to go back. But we don't know when it will be, which is very depressing. I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you know I'm going back next year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, if you know, you can work towards it. But when you're like, I have no idea, that's the depressing thing. Because I always say you need to have another Disney trip booked in. So I think it'll be nice to go to Disneyland Paris to get that taste of the Disney magic, and then, you know, it'll help a bit. But it's not the same as Disney World. It's just, Disney World is on its own level because it is just so big, so in your face, and yeah, it's just so wonderful. Like, I absolutely love it, and I can't wait for the vlogs to come out. Like, I think it's gonna be so fun to kind of show everything I did, because, like I said, there were so many new things I got to experience this trip, so many tips and things that you learn, and just everything was so good though. Everything was so good. Every day was perfection. So it's so fun. Yes, Jamie, you're so right. Holiday blues are the worst. Normally a trip is booked a week or so after coming back. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Most people do that because it's just like, I can't envision not being able to go back. I need to be back having that amazing feeling again. And I think that's the thing. Like, people are like, oh, why do you go so often? But it is that thing of, when you go to other places, you have an amazing time. You make amazing memories. But it's not the same. There is literal, like, magic in the air. And, like, yeah, it's not the same. And I do think it's funny, because I was saying to my friend the other day, like, say I said to them, I think we should go on holiday together. We're going to go, it's going to be like 40 degrees every day. We're going to walk 20,000 steps a day. We're going to be out for like 16 hours. We're going to get no sleep. They'd be like, I don't know if that sounds great, but you go to Disney World and you're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Like, it's so funny. And that's the thing, Disney World is definitely intense. I think all Disney holidays are intense. They are not a relaxing holiday, but you get so much out of it that you're like, I don't care. I'm going to battle through whatever happens because I'm having the best time ever. And you just don't experience it anywhere else. It's just so magical. And something I actually really love is people who go with someone who's never been but is perhaps a bit sceptical. And they're like, oh, it's just a theme park. Why are we going? It's so expensive. It's so far. Why are we going? And then that person falls in love, and you see it happen in real time. And then, like you say, Jamie, they come home, and that person is the one suggesting, when are we going back? And that, to me, is such a joy when you get to see that experience, because you're just like, oh my God, I love it. And I think that's something that's really fun. If you're visiting with someone who's never been before, getting to see everything for the first time through their eyes and that excitement is wonderful. It's so good. Yes, Lisa, you're so right. Yes, Peter. I absolutely loved that you were like, he's got the like Haunted Mansion shirt on. He's got Chip and Dale. Like, he's gone fully in, and it's wonderful. It's so exciting to see him just like being fully invested now in Disney. It's just the absolute best. And I can't wait for it's going to be your regular holiday destination now. It's going to be fantastic. Simon, this is exactly what happened with my mum. I'll have to tell you the story sometime. But yes, that's the thing, isn't it? It's so amazing when people kind of are like, okay, well, if you want to go, I'll come. And, you know, they think it'll be just like a normal theme park. It'll be fine. But then they're just blown away. And I think that's the thing, like, this is why I always say, like, Universal, to me, is an amazing theme park when you compare it to other theme parks, so like Six Flags or Thorpe Park or whatever. But no theme park on earth is anywhere near the level of Disney, I think, because Disney has that feeling, and there's so much more to it than just the rides. It's the atmosphere, it's the cast members, it's all of that that really feeds into why Disney's amazing, and why it's so much more than a theme park. Because you could go to Disney and go on one ride and have the most amazing time. Whereas I feel like if you went to Universal and didn't go on any rides, it would feel a bit like, oh, I've missed out. Whereas I think Disney, you wouldn't feel like you've missed out, which I absolutely love it. Oh, this is a great question, Jamie. If money was no option, what would my dream trip? and it would be the I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like, I don't know what it's like, by like Disney destinations or whatever, but it's the private jet trip. So you go to all 6 theme parks in the world. There's like, I think it's like 70 people. You're on a private jet. All 6 theme parks in the world. You also randomly stop at the Taj Mahal and the pyramids, but brilliant extra things. But you don't just like go to the theme parks. Everything is incredible. So like, you will go into the parks early. You will be the only people in the parks. You'll then have an Imagineer that built that park giving you a private guided tour. You get to do stuff like stay at Skywalker Ranch. And like literally, it's the most incredible. It's like $150,000. It's ridiculous. It's one of those, you know, like on the internet, it was popular recently. Like, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell you, but there'd be signs. That's the sign. If you suddenly see some vlogs from like this private jet tour, you know I've won the lottery. Because it looks incredible. And to me, it's the fact that you're getting those extra special things that no one gets, like those tours with Imagineers and meeting those special people. It's literally great. You also get like a private chef that flies with you and stuff like this, and I'm like, brilliant, sign me up. So if there was no money restrictions, that would be it. But I'm also desperate to go to Aulani in Hawaii. I think that looks stunning. But I know like Hawaii is obviously an expensive destination anyway. Disney in Hawaii is next level expensive. But that looks beautiful. And I think if you could do a trip where you kind of do a park visit and then go to Aulani to relax, that would be absolutely stunning. But again, I think that's like super, super, super expensive. But I also really want to go to Tokyo. I think, like everyone I said, I was talking to Lisa about it, who got to visit earlier this year, and everyone says it's unbelievable and it just looks stunning. Like Tokyo Sea, Disney Sea looks like the best thing since sliced bread. It's like they've done everything right. So it's just such a dream, isn't it? It's so hard. But that's actually a really good question. I'd love to know what all of your like bucket list, if money was no options, what you would love to do, because I feel like there'll be lots that are similar, but also people have very different ideas. So I would love to hear, because I think that's such a perfect question. Oh, this is a good question. Where in the world, other than the UK, would you build a new park? What's interesting is the 2 places that kind of haven't had anything like that are South America and Africa. And what's interesting is one of the biggest demographics to Disney World is people from South America. So it would be interesting if they could build parks there, because I feel like they would be frequented massively. I think they'd be super, super, super popular. Obviously, you have the weather as well. That would be amazing. But yeah, I'm surprised. It would be interesting to see if they... Wouldn't it be amazing if they did start venturing out into different continents that they haven't yet been in? Because I think that could be really, really cool. And I do love how different countries... Like, I feel like the US parks and even Disneyland Paris are... They have their own personalities, but they're kind of similar. Whereas the Asian parks really have a lot of their cultures shown and represented, which I think is amazing. So if they spread out into different continents, to also have that, I think would be wonderful. So I think that could be really, really, really cool. Where would you like to see a park? I do also think it was interesting, because when they were building Disneyland Paris, or they were going to come to Europe, they were looking at the UK, France, or Spain. And I feel like Spain was probably the best choice in the sense of weather, but they went for France because they had the best travel connections, which, of course, is brilliant because you've got flights and trains from all over Europe. So it absolutely makes sense why that became the hub. But yes, it must have been interesting to kind of work out, where do we put a park? But something I think is also going to be interesting is we're getting a Universal Park in Bedford. We don't know when. It could be 10 years. It could be ages away. But I think that is going to shake things up so much, because all of the UK parks, but I also think a lot of European parks are going to have to step their... Disneyland Paris is going to have to step its game up massively. Duke of B, and they're going to have Halloween Horror Nights. So I'm going to become a frequent fear person, obviously. It's going to become my personality. Imagine if I could be a scare actor. That is actually something I would love. To be a scare actor, I think, would be absolutely brilliant. Although they have said there was a lot of problems with either very, very drunk people or unruly teenagers who have been like touching the cast members or pushing them, or it's been quite problematic this year. So let's hope people don't carry on doing that, because let them do their jobs and leave them alone. But I would love to be a scare actor. That would be incredible. Yes, Disney dominates the world would be a dream. It would be so good. Lisa says, if money wouldn't be a thing, I would not work and go from one park to another, staying in all the hotels and having Winnie Pooh and his friends at all my meals. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah, and getting to stay in all the hotels. Could you imagine how incredible that would be? It would be so good. I did read a statistic once, and they said if you stayed in every single hotel room in Disney World, because there's over 30 resorts now, so if you stayed in every single hotel, it would take you over 80 years if you spent one night in each hotel room. And I'm like, that's incredible. I mean, not that anyone's going to do that, but that's incredible. That is remarkable. Jamie, you could cheat and say Ireland. That would be so good. That would be so good, because Ireland is a country I think so many people love to visit. It's got great travel connections. Like, we need to make this happen. I think that would be amazing. And yeah, we need more representation. That would be absolutely awesome. So we absolutely need to get this going. We need a petition. We need a petition to start now. And I do think it will be interesting to see if, like, Universal will either kind of knock out all the competition, so you'll see less theme parks springing up in Europe, or it will open the gateway of people being like, do you know what, so many people love theme park holidays, because we see, like, there's so many theme parks in Europe, and I feel like people always used to go to Disneyland Paris because it was the known one, but you're seeing more and more people doing holidays to all of these other theme parks. So will more spring up, because it's like, oh, okay, like, there's a big appetite for this now, and I think having a Universal park in Europe will make such a difference. Obviously they've bought Port Aventura, so technically we already have one, and I feel like yeah, I feel like it's going to be an interesting time. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Donna says, if Asia can have 3 parks, Europe can have at least 1 more. But that's such a good point. And I wonder whether they, if they did do it, would they put it in a country that is warmer? Because I think that would be interesting if you had it in Southern Europe, so that the weather's better all year round. Because the one thing that I think is going to be interesting in Disneyland Paris is how the Lion King land is going to work when it's -5 in winter. Because really, Lion King land would have fitted in somewhere like Animal Kingdom perfectly. And I'm really excited, because obviously it's an iconic film. It looks beautiful, but the weather, I think, will have an impact on the land. When you're like out on Pride Rock and it's pouring with rain, and you're like, it's not quite the same as in the film. I think that will be interesting. Jamie, you're so right. It'd be great if Disney was like, Universal was doing a UK park, so are we. Can't see this happening because it would kill the French park in terms of UK visitors, which is so true. And I think that's the thing. I think if they did a different European park, it would be like either like Eastern European way or Southern Europe way, to get away from Disneyland Paris, because, like you say, it would draw so much attention away from it. But I think it's interesting, because I was speaking to someone in America and they were talking about Disneyland Paris, and they were saying like, oh, it's interesting, like, obviously the Studios park is being developed and you're getting the 2 new lands, but they're like, nothing's happening to the main park. And I was like, there has been nothing happen to the main park for decades. So it will be interesting if eventually that park will also get an expansion, what will happen with it. But I feel like Disneyland Paris is slow going, and the fact that we're getting 2 new lands, I feel like is huge news, because it feels rare. So I would definitely take that. But we're interested to see if they do anything with the main park, because that one has been stagnant for quite a while. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I do think that Universal might be the push that they need to kind of step it up, because undoubtedly it's going to take business away from Disneyland Paris, particularly because if a lot of people in Europe have been to Disneyland Paris, they might then go, well, let's go to Universal instead. Because especially from mainland Europe, you get the little train to London, hop on a little train to Bedford, and you're there. It's going to be great. And then people might also, because the thing I'm excited for, I'm assuming our Universal Park is going to have a Harry Potter land, because it has to. And people are going to be able to combine that with going to the studio tour. Like, I think it's going to be like a big thing. So I do think it's going to be great because, you know, competition is great for us because we can only benefit. Because I do think Disneyland Paris will have to massively step things up to retain their customer base and not get taken away by Universal. But it's the same thing that we're seeing in Florida, isn't it? Next year, Universal is going to have a massive impact on Disney World. It's also going to have an impact on how people visit Disney. Because at the moment, a lot of us will visit for 2 weeks and we'll do most of the time at Disney and we'll do 1 or 2 days at Universal. Epic Universe opening, that will change. So people, are they going to do longer trips? Or are they going to do split stays where they do less time at Disney and more at Universal? So I think that's going to be really interesting. And I feel like Universal opening in the UK will also have that with Disneyland Paris. So I can't wait to see. You could have a park in somewhere like Norway and have the Frozen Castle as their main castle, as it's far enough away from Disneyland Paris. That would be really, really cool. That would be exciting. But I wonder if the weather would be too off-putting to people. Because I feel like France is touch and go. Because in the winter it can get very, very cold. But if you layer up, you can kind of deal with it. Whereas I feel like in Norway, you might have to have like specialist clothing. But it would be really pretty. So it's like swings and roundabouts, isn't it? That would be amazing. But yeah, I don't know if they'll ever do another park in Europe. Because like you say, they do have 3 in Asia. So you're like, that makes sense. Like they could do another one here. But I wonder if they ever will. So yeah, Donna says, everyone said they won't do the UK because of the weather, but France rains all the time, and there's so much potential for the UK with characters like Mary Poppins, Pooh Bear, Robin Hood, Alice, Peter Pan, Merlin, which you are 100% right, because there is so many characters that stem from, you know, UK literature or UK characters, but I feel like they won't do a park here because it's so close to Disneyland Paris and it would just take away. But maybe they should have put it here in the first place. But because, like you say, I think the reason they didn't do it is because although we have similar weather, France had the better travel connections, which absolutely makes sense. I'm just surprised they didn't go with Spain, because I feel like if Disneyland Paris had been in Spain, travel connections would have built up anyway. I think it's just that France had established travel connections, but I feel like Spain would have had like an all year round, more pleasant weather experience. But yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Hi Christina, lovely to see you. Paris needs more. Yeah, no, excited about Universal in UK, but Disney is my favourite place to be. Yeah, that's the thing, is it? Because Disney has that feeling that you don't get anywhere else. Like, Universal will be an amazing theme park, but you don't get that magical feeling. But I do think it will be great because Disneyland Paris will have to do something to compete. So we're gonna benefit. Like, there's only good things in store for us, which is gonna be so good. But Sarah, you're right. You prefer the France weather to the crazy heat in the Orlando swamp. Yeah, the heat this year was unreal. I've never, ever, ever known September to be that hot. September is a hot month, but this was unreal, to the point where I said a few times, and Alison, who was here earlier, we were both saying, she also visits a lot in September. If this is the new September, I don't know how many more times I could go in September, because it is just so unbelievably hot. It's just nuts. But yeah, Jamie asked, where would you put a UK park in the UK? And I think that's the thing. If they, I don't think they will ever do one here. But it would have to be somewhere that has good travel connections. So it would have to be somewhere close to London that you could easily hop on a train, which is why Bedford is perfect for Universal. But yeah, it would have to be somewhere where there's so much transportation for people travelling from overseas to get there. But Lisa says, I don't really see another Disney park in Europe. We don't really have the Disney culture excitement for the 2 parks here. Asia and the Disney fans are feeling it so much. Yes, it's so true. I do agree, because in Asia, like, Disney is huge. So it makes sense why they have so many people that wanting to go to the parks, which is why they've built so many of the parks there. Whereas, yeah, I feel like in Europe, people are, like, happy with, oh, we can pop to Disneyland Paris, and it is what it is. Like, are they gonna be going to all of the parks if they had multiple in Europe? I mean, we would. We'd be like, this is the best thing ever. But would the average person be going to multiple Disney parks in Europe? It's hard to know, isn't it? Yes, Sarah, it didn't help that Hurricane Helene happened during your vacation. Yes, it's a nightmare, isn't it? And like I my last trip had the hurricane, and it definitely, like, I feel like the way they deal with them is brilliant and really impressive. But of course, it does have an impact on your trip. Like, I think when I was there, the parks were shut for, it was 2 or 3 days, so I just had to stay in your hotel. And how was your experience, Sarah? I hope it wasn't too bad. I know Hurricane Helene on the coasts, the devastation was huge. So it'd be interesting to hear how in Orlando itself, how was it? So yeah, I hope you were all good. Yeah, Lisa, you're so right. If we get one in Europe, it would have to be something like Disney Sea, where it's not a castle park. That's a really, really good point. If they did something unique like Tokyo Disney Sea, that could work. But that would be amazing. I love that Christina said that it needs to be in Hampshire, 100%, because that's where we live. Yeah, if they could put it in Portsmouth. Or what they could do is just make the Isle of Wight a Disney island. Just completely get rid of... Just go, we don't need whatever's on the Isle of Wight at the moment. No one visits. Let's just have Disney an island. Which would be incredible. Guy says, has anyone mentioned, are you planning a Motorcycle Guides UK meetup? We definitely should, because the meetup in Orlando was next level incredible. And it's one of those things, because I've been mulling it over and trying to work out what would be a good thing to do. Because I'm assuming it would probably be London, because it's probably got the most travel connections for people. Although I suppose we could do a theme park. It won't be Disney, but it'll be kind of the same sort of thing. The same genre, at least. But then I was like, oh, if we go to London, what could we do? That's like, obviously Disney Store, that's fine. But it's like, I was trying to look up, are there any things happening around Disney in London? So yeah, we definitely have to do a meetup, because I think it'll be so fun to get to meet face to face in person. So if anyone has any things they think, oh, actually, we should do that, that would be fun. And I suppose it doesn't even have to be themed around Disney. We could just find a fun activity to do and go and do that. I'm just thinking, oh my god, it has to be Disney, but I'm like, I'm sure it doesn't. Like, if we all just want to meet up and have fun, we could do anything, which should be so much fun. But yes, you're so right, Guy. You don't have to plan anything. It could just be meeting up and chatting in person, which I think you're so right. And I think that's what I've got hung up on, is trying to work out, are there any Disney events coming up? And you want to, if you're going to do an event, you want it to be something that isn't unbelievably expensive, because you don't want people to feel like they can't come because they can't afford this expensive event. But like you said, I think just doing a meetup, like, let's go and we can have a wander around London, we can do fun things without having to like plan specifically, book this and go here. That could be so nice. But yes, Lisa, Efteling, Phantasialand, like, absolutely have to do it. Like, am I mispronouncing that? I feel like I tried to pronounce that how I think it would be pronounced in German, but maybe it is just called Phantasialand. But I was like, don't be silly. Of course, we're not going to do the English pronunciation, but maybe it's not pronounced Phantasialand. I'm just like, I'm going to just make up a pronunciation. But they both look amazing parks, and like, I absolutely need to come over, because we definitely need to meet up. It was the best time, and getting to go and visit these iconic parks would be so good. So that sounds like a plan. Jamie, like you said, there could be a convention, which, that's such a good idea, isn't it? Because they have them throughout the year, really, really, really fun. So we should definitely keep an eye out for conventions as well. That would be so good. But yeah, also, Lisa, as we all know, I need to practice my German. So I feel like I do need to come to the German parks and start practicing, which will be amazing. But if the first hurdle will just be, let's pronounce the names correctly of the parks. That could be my first task, which would be so good. But yeah, I am so excited for these vlogs to start, guys, and I'm really excited for you to see the new camera. Like, well, you won't see the camera, but what the camera filmed. Because I just think it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience of it not being shaky. Being able to see things without it being like, oh, is going to be a revelation. But I do apologise, like I say, because the first day or so, I definitely sometimes forgot to turn the mic on. So there will be some bits of audio that you're like, that sounds a bit dubious, but I definitely got better. I got into the swing of it, and yeah, it was just such a nice camera to have, and it makes such a difference. And it was so small, so light, like it was much nicer to vlog with because you could be much more discreet. Like you don't want to be like infringing on people, particularly like if you're on a ride or something, because I can hold it here and it's in no one's view, no one's kind of getting impacted by it, so it's great. Like I can't wait to show you what it looks like because it was so good. But yes, I think we definitely need to plan this meetup. We have to start doing it. We have to think about it, and yeah. Or it could even be stuff like coming up to like the Christmas season, which I hate. I can't believe when I went and got my first food shop, coming back, they had Christmas food, and I was like, it's September, guys, calm down. But my point being, the Christmas season, everywhere has like Christmas markets. It's all pretty and lit up, so that could be like a really nice time to meet up. So yeah, we definitely have to plan this. Jill, you're so right. The Warner Brothers studio tour. That would be amazing because that is so much fun, and what a great day out that would be. And there's so much to see, do loads of great photo opportunities. Like that could be a really great thing. So I'm loving that we've got loads of ideas because maybe we could do a few meetups so that, you know, different dates work for different people or different locations work for different people. That would be so good. But yes, Sarah, your hurricane experience, not too bad at all. There was the storm, but at the daytime, it was mostly strong winds. The parks stayed open in the daytime. It was hefty, but inside the room, it wasn't too bad. And the hotels have generators, which, yeah, exactly, which is really good. So you know you're not going without power. Florida was prepared. They have evacuation shelters, ordered extra gas, very well handled. Yeah, I was so impressed as well. Like, even to the point where, at Universal, I was staying at Cabana Bay at the time, and some palm leaves had come down, but the hotel had done a fantastic job of securing everything. So it was brilliant. Outside, there was like 6 foot of flood water. Within half a day, it was gone. I was so impressed at how they're so brilliant at dealing with all this stuff. Like, the next day, you wouldn't have known there had been a hurricane. Like, they're so well prepared, and they deal with it so brilliantly. So it's really impressive when you experience it, because you're just like, I can't get over. Like, in the UK, we get 1 leaf on the train line, and we can't use trains anymore. Whereas they have a whole hurricane, and they're like, oh yeah, just carry on as normal. It's not a problem. It's absolutely incredible. Yes, Christina, we are going to get an extended audio from Halloween Horror Nights. So what I think I might do is, in the actual vlog of it, I will put in the whole thing. There's probably going to have to be a lot of beeping. But maybe you can let me know. Do you want the beeps or do you want the uncensored version? If I maybe put up a notice in advance to let people know they're swearing. Because obviously the channel, I don't swear. But in that house, loads of effing and jeffing. So maybe we have like a uncensored adult version, or we could do the beeps, which might make it funnier actually. But I think I'm going to put the whole thing in. And it's so funny because it's almost funnier that you can't see what's happening, if that makes sense. You can just hear and you're like, God knows what she was saying in that moment to elicit that response. But I'm going to put the full, non-cut version in, so you can hear the whole thing. Yes, I can only imagine, Sarah, the chaos at the airport. That must have been so difficult because, of course, all the flights get thrown out of whack, and then they don't have the crew, or the planes are in the wrong location, and I hope it didn't cause too much delay, which, yeah, that must be the really stressful thing. Yes, Jamie, the Hercules show is coming to London. Like, there's so many things. Although, Lisa had seen it when it was in Hamburg, and it wasn't great, which is such a shame. And I do feel like sometimes, like, I went to see Aladdin. Like, Christina, actually, you went to see Aladdin as well, didn't you? What did you think? Because it was one of those shows where everything was good. Like, the staging was good, the costumes were good, the cast were amazing. But it just felt flat. There was just something missing from it. Which is why I think it didn't ever really do massive, like, you know, something like The Lion King or Frozen or something. So I'm wondering if Hercules is the same. Interestingly, between Hamburg and London, they might do updates. So maybe there will be some changes, but I'm really curious to go and see it because such a fun film. So I think the show could be great. But yeah, you'll have to let us all know what you're all thinking. And have any of you seen Aladdin on this recent tour? I know me and Christina were at the same theatre but on different dates, so we missed each other. But yeah. Yeah, Donna, saw Aladdin in the West End. It was great, but it felt more like a pantomime. I think it's difficult because I think the guy playing Genie was really good, but no one's going to be Robin Williams, so you kind of have to just ignore original Genie because it's not going to be the same. And it was really, really fun. And I think he's definitely the best character by far. But I don't know why. Just, yeah, like, something felt flat about it. Like, yeah, Christina couldn't agree more. It missed charm. There was just something about it that was lacking. And I don't know what it was, because it was really, really great. But, like, everything was there, but it just missed slightly, which is wild. But Simon says that Lion King, Mary Poppins and Frozen are all amazing. Aladdin is good, but something made it feel a little less special than the others. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Something about it. But Lisa said Aladdin on Broadway blew you away. So yeah, maybe it's like where you see it, the staging, the cast. Hoping for a Hercules update in London. Yes, because yeah, it must be so interesting to see it in Hamburg and be like, okay, again, it just kind of lacking something, missed the mark. So it will be interesting to see if they do make changes because everyone's so excited for it, which I'm loving, and the songs are great. I think it's gonna be so fun. But and that's actually something Aladdin, when you had the songs from the film, they were such standout moments because those songs were iconic. The new songs I didn't love as much. There were none that I remember. You know, like sometimes you'll go away from a musical and there's a song you can't stop thinking about. I don't remember any of the new songs. There was one where they had like the three friends singing about adventure, which was the one that I thought was the best. But again, I don't really remember the song. I just remember thinking this is the best of the new songs. But yes, Jamie, I have seen Wicked. Love it on stage. Like, such a good show. I think the film will be interesting to see. Interesting they're doing it in 2 parts. But I feel like the on stage is really amazing. And it could be amazing in film, but you never know. Sometimes it will be mind-blowing. You're like, wow, they've done this brilliantly. And other times it's like, oh no, that's kind of not the thing. Yes, Simon, Wicked, your favourite musical of all time, nervous for the movie. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? When you love something, you're like, please don't mess this up because I want to really love it. And I think it'll be interesting. And something my cousin said, which I think is true, is in the trailer, they pretty much tell you the whole story. And I'm presuming that they've done that because they think mostly people that are going to watch Wicked are people that have seen it on stage. But I'm like, there will be a lot of people who love the idea of Wicked but haven't had the opportunity to watch it on stage that will watch the film. So it's interesting that they kind of give the whole storyline away in the trailer. You're like, is that the wise idea? So yeah, I hope it will be good. Like, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? I'm always nervous when they do adaptations of things, and you're like, And like we're seeing, like, obviously Disney are doing a lot of live action remakes of classic films, and I'm like, look, the Snow White one. I feel like the Snow White one they should just knock on the head. There's been so much controversy around it, and it hasn't even come out, and I'm like, no, just forget about it. Because Snow White is one of my favourites, and I don't think I'm going to risk it because I saw Beauty and the Beast. And the live action ruined the original to the point where I've never actually watched Beauty and the Beast since. I probably should watch the animation again just to fall in love with it again. But the live action ruined Beauty and the Beast for me. So I'm not even going near Snow White. I'm not. I'm not attempting it. I love that, Lisa, you're saying, Simon, we are the same person. It's brilliant. Jamie asks, random question, do you have a go-to Halloween movie for the Halloween season? Well, I suppose it's not a Halloween film, but every year I watch Hocus Pocus because iconic. My favourite horror films that I will watch them whenever I have the chance, but particularly around Halloween season, I do love Halloween. Like, I love Michael Myers. He's probably my favourite Halloween kind of spooky horror character. The Conjuring is one of my all-time favourite horror films. I think it's so good. Because a lot of horror films, what's funny, Halloween Horror Nights, like I said, I scare easily. Watching horror films, I don't ever really react. I'm one of those people that sits in the cinema and does not move. The Conjuring was one film where I was actually jumping. So I absolutely love that. I do love the Insidious films. I think they are really, really great. Love Nightmare on Elm Street, because I just think it's really funny as well. I mean, I don't think it's meant to be funny, but there are definitely really funny moments. So I absolutely love to see that. And very recently, I went to see Terrifier. So this week, I saw a double bill of Terrifier 2. Probably going to go see Terrifier 3 when it comes out in a couple of weeks' time. Terrifier 1, I thought was really good. It's more of a gory horror film than a scary horror film. I think Art the Clown is immediately an iconic horror character. So I was so glad I got to see the films back to back. And I love that they're doing double bills now. Like, they're bringing them back. They were like advertising, because you could see that as a double bill. You could see Smile and Smile 2 as a double bill. And then they were like, and also Paddington 1 and 2. And I was like, bit different. We've gone left field with that, but I love that. But the double bill is so fun. Absolutely loved it. But love seeing horror films. And this is the thing that I find difficult about horror films. The horror films don't tend to scare me, which you would never get from Halloween Horror Nights, which is so funny. Like, I don't react to them, and I actually find it frustrating, because I find that there's a good horror film like every 15 years where you actually go, oh, this is like, to me the last like scary horror film is The Conjuring. So but I will watch every horror film. I go into every single one with such hope that this is going to be one that's going to really frighten me. But I as I've gotten older, I'm like, let's move away from hoping they frighten you to like appreciating them as, are they good as a horror film? And then you can like really get into that. But does anyone else have any horror films that they're like, or Halloween films that they're like, I've got to watch every year, or that you would recommend that people need to see? Because I love it. Always looking for new things. Christine would love a stage version of Princess and the Frog. I would love that too. That would be so good. And I think every single song from Princess and the Frog is incredible. There's not like one song that lets it down. I think it could be a really great stage adaptation. Like, and I think Tiana is such a beloved princess, and what I really like about her as well is she feels like a relatable princess, because her dream of opening her own restaurant and like just working really, really hard, she feels so relatable. Whereas like, obviously back in the day they were based on fairy tales, so it was a bit more like damsel in distress and man saves them, and then we've moved away from that. But even something like Frozen, it's like, right, she's a queen. Okay, but I'm not a queen. I'm not in control of a country yet. So someone like Tiana, I think she's so brilliant. Like, I am obsessed with Tiana. So I would absolutely love that. Jamie, the Mufasa movie, I'm interested to see, because I actually haven't seen the live action Lion King. So I'm like, maybe I need to see that first. But I think that's partly because I've not liked any of the live action films. And controversially, I'm not a big Beyonce fan. So when they were like, oh, we're taking out one of the iconic songs so Beyonce can have her own song, I went, no thank you. No thank you. So I haven't seen that, so maybe I need to watch that. But I love the trailer for Mufasa, and I think what's good is it's not a remake, as in it's its own story, so I think that could be incredible. So I definitely want to go and see that, but what's everyone else feeling about it? Because, yeah, there's a lot of these kind of films that I feel like Disney are doing them because the hardest thing about making new movies is marketing. How do you make people want to see a film? And a lot of the, like, films with original storylines, Disney have not done well for a while. Whereas with a remake or something like Mufasa, because people already know what to expect, you don't have to spend so much on marketing because people are invested. So I think this will be an interesting film, and it does look good. So I'm like, do I need to watch the live action Lion King first? Or can I skip it still? I have seen Beetlejuice too. So basically, I always go to the cinema when I'm in Disney World. So I go to the AMC cinema in Disney Springs. So I went to see Beetlejuice. I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I feel like if you like the original, you're going to love this. I love that it's just as wacky and wild. But I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. It was so fun. It was great to see Beetlejuice back. That's actually something I love about Universal, is you can still meet him. But one of the things that's sad, like, I love the Wizarding World, and it had to happen, and it's next level incredible. But the Beetlejuice review, the musical show they used to have there, was so good. I wish they'd just build it somewhere else in the park so you could have that. Because we need more Beetlejuice. We need more Beetlejuice. And maybe they will start doing more. Now you've had the success of the film, maybe they will be like, look, people clearly have a taste for more Beetlejuice. So that'd be so good. But has anyone else seen it? What are you thinking? Because it's really good. So I'm not a fan of the live action Lion King at all, but Mufasa looks promising. Disney needs to stop these live action remakes. Not a fan. I liked Aladdin, although thought Jafar was a little weak. Do you know what's interesting? I hadn't seen Aladdin, and then when I was in Disney World, it was on the telly one night. It was when I was having my afternoon break, so I saw part of it, and I really liked the live action Aladdin. Apart from Genie, I thought Will Smith was diabolical. I could not get over how bad it was. I was like, I know when you have such an iconic character, you kind of do need to put your own sway on it. You cannot beat Robin Williams. It's not going to happen. So you need to do your own thing. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. So, yeah, I do need to see the rest of it, though, because I only saw part of it. But I did like it. And do you know what's interesting? I don't like The Little Mermaid very much. I just don't like Ariel. I can't vibe with her. She's not my kind of girl. I'm not about her. However, I did like the remake, but I wonder if it's because I don't have a strong connection to the original film, which is why I could kind of dive into the remake and like it. Whereas any of the films that I've really liked and seen the remake of, I've hated. I've not liked any of them, and I'm like, you're so right, they need to stop, because they're just ruining their back catalogue. And I'm like, why? But yes, you also really liked The Little Mermaid because you don't like the animation. I think that's the key. I think you have to not like the film to like the live action. But yeah, I don't like Ariel. But, you know, that's why I probably got into it. This is why I think Ursula's such a great villain, because you cannot convince me she's right in that film. I'm like, it was a contract, it was fairly signed, like, she gets what she deserves. It's nuts. Uh-oh, you're a good point, Lisa. I might have said Beetlejuice 3 times or more. So, could be an interesting night we're in store for. Which would be absolutely incredible. Can you imagine? These would be so good. But yes, Christina, you definitely need to see the new one. It's so, so, so fun. I did see it the other day on TikTok, that there were these girls who were about 16, and they were dressed up all in like Beetlejuice stuff, and they're like, oh, as an original Beetlejuice fan, like, I really dislike the new one, like, as an original fan. And I was like, if you're 16, are you really an original fan? Like, I'm not saying that you can't enjoy it and like absolutely love it and it'd be one of your all-time favourite films, but I feel like to be an original fan, you had to have seen it when it came out and like grew up with it. And interestingly, I feel like a lot of people that did it that way love it, and a lot of people that have come to it recently because they're young and obviously they weren't around haven't enjoyed it. And I'm like, but then maybe it wasn't made for you. Maybe it was made for our generation. And I do kind of love that when they do recognise their audience and make it kind of, because they know that they're going to like it, if that makes sense. It's like, you know, like Toy Story. Toy Story 3, that wasn't made for kids. That was made for us. That was made for the people that had seen the Toy Story films and they were now like young adults and they wanted to see the conclusion. Although now, you know, we're still making Toy Story films, but that was definitely made for us. And I loved that. I loved that. Donna, 100% agree about Beetlejuice. Very faithful to the original. Anything Tim Burton for the win. Need a Tim Burton land. That would be amazing. Can you imagine if they did have like a theme park around Tim Burton? Like, that would be incredible. That'd be so good. And Jamie, they have a layup for the third Beetlejuice. That's so true, because they've had Beetlejuice, and then the third one, we've all got to summon him. Beetlejuice. That would be amazing. It would be so good. Oh, Simon, it's interesting. Felt the same about Beetlejuice 2 as I did about Hocus Pocus 2. Really faithful to the originals. Honoured the originals, but were fitting sequels. Not as good as the originals, but didn't need to be. Good fun. I really disliked Hocus Pocus 2. But do you know what I think it is? I think I probably had too high expectations, because you're never, ever, ever going to top the first one, because it's so iconic. But I feel like they just didn't... The story was a bit lackluster, although I loved seeing them as young girls, and I'm really glad this year? It's coming. It's this year, isn't it? It's not next year, but we're getting their story, which I think is going to be incredible. But I loved seeing the 3 Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker back, because it's one of those films I feel like everyone was rooting for, because they're just so brilliant in it. And I was like, I felt a little bit let down by it, but I am really excited to see this new one, and it's them as young girls, their story. I think it's going to be so good. But I think Disney need to focus more on like original stories and not live action remakes, because I think the big problem Disney have at the moment is they are obsessed with corporate business and they don't care about imagination anymore. But Disney is a company that's built on imagination, and because people loved that, the money followed. Whereas now they're so obsessed with chasing the money that they're doing all these terrible decisions that lose the money, because they just aren't focusing on imagination anymore. And I'm like, please, just, we need someone to come in. We need the dream team. Disney's always worked best when you have an imaginative CEO and the right-hand man is an incredible finance person. That's what you need. We've got to stop having these corporate people because they don't know what they're doing. And we need to like bring back original storylines. Like, I think it will be that they will have another golden age. I'm sure of it, but they won't if they carry on the way they are. So I'm like, please stop. What do you think the next classic Halloween film will be that will get a sequel like Beetlejuice or Hocus Pocus? Oh, that's so good. That's such a good point. Because here's the thing I think is interesting. Horror films that have been successful, like The Conjuring, they obviously did do a second Conjuring, and then they've expanded the universe, right? But I'm wondering, you're so right, like, what horror film do we need to see more of? Because I am excited there is going to be another Terrifier film, if I'm honest. Because, like, he's one of those horror characters that is like Michael Myers. You could do anything to this clown and he's not dying. So they feel like they've got endless opportunity. But I'm wondering what would be good. Do you know what I think would be, I'd like to see more of, although it's not a film? House on the Haunted Hill. That was such a great horror TV series. And that actually has one of the best jump scares I think I've ever seen. And I thought it was so good and such an interesting story. And I'm like, we need to do more of that. I think that would be so good. What horror films do you think we should get more sequels to? Because that's a really, really good question. Because I'm trying to think, what is the last horror... Do you know what I did see? I don't know if they do a sequel to it. I think they probably could. But on Netflix, there's a film called Haunt. And if you like horror films, it's great. It's set in a haunted house, kind of like Halloween Horror Nights. It's kind of like if you're worried about Halloween Horror Nights going wrong and being murdered, the film Haunt is that. It's your worst nightmare. But it's so good. Because like I say, it's so rare to find... horror films where I'm like, oh, that's really stood out to me and it's amazing. But I really loved Haunt. I thought that was great. Jamie, hope they leave Nightmare Before Christmas alone. Yes. Ooh, would like to see Tim Burton Addams Family based on the Wednesday series. That would be really interesting. I think that would be really, really cool. Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas is so good. And it's like, we could just leave this. We don't need to be messing about with it. Don't be ruining it. Like, because that's always the worry, isn't it? Like, if we're going to do something new and it's going to take away, let's not be messing about it. But, yeah, they could do a whole Addams Family remake, like you say, based on Wednesday, which would be really cool. I feel like Jenna Ortega is a really good fit for Tim Burton, and I feel like she's going to be in a lot of his films and projects coming up. So I think that will be really, really good. But I'm trying to think, I wonder what else would be amazing for Halloween. I'd like to just see some really scary horror things, though. I just really want to be frightened. But that's interestingly something I noticed, because I every year will always watch the like Halloween Horror Nights walkthroughs, and now having gone to Halloween Horror Nights, the walkthroughs are nothing like the experience whatsoever, because everything in the house is visceral, so they're really loud, which you get a sense of in the videos, but you don't get a sense of like how shocking like the noises are when they come out of nowhere. And also stuff like the scents, because they pump scents in, particularly something like there was a candy, I can't think of the name now, but it was like a candy themed house this year that had loads of amazing scents, which was really cool. And then also stuff like when they're doing the walkthroughs, obviously because you're filming with a camera, you have to move the camera to react. Whereas obviously when you're there, you are just naturally reacting to things. So it's very interesting to see the difference, because I didn't realise that they give you a taste of what the things are like, but being there is an entirely different experience, which was great. Not Halloween, but do want another Pirates film. And it to be redeemed because the last one was so bad. Yeah, that would be amazing. And the thing is, I'm like, if they're going to do another Pirates film, they've got to have Johnny Depp. And if they're not going to have Johnny Depp, then they have to just knock it on the head. Because I know they keep talking about, oh, we're going to do it and we're going to have a different pirate. And I'm like, no one wants that. No one wants it. If people want Pirates films, they want to see Jack Sparrow. So I'm like, I feel like you're right. They either have to redeem it and have a really amazing film with him, or we have to just move on, because you can't replace Jack Sparrow. If you've got an iconic character, you've just got to run with that character. Like, it's nuts. But I suppose obviously there's also the thing, like, Johnny Depp was very adamant he will never work with Disney again, so that might just be it's not going to happen. But I know there's all talks about a new pirate, and I'm like, no. I can't cope. But it'd be interesting as well. I was thinking about this whilst I was there. What what ride could they base a film on? Because obviously you've had Pirates that was turned into a film, you had Haunted Mansion has had a film, and I'm like, I wonder what other ride they could make a film about, because obviously they're doing the opposite now, where they're making rides based on a film, whereas for a while they were doing it the other way around. And obviously we've had Jungle Cruise, things like that, and I was like, I wonder what ride they could make a film about, because there's got to be some that would be super, super fun. Like, I mean, Country Bears could, of course, have its own film. Like, that would be iconic, because, like, they're great characters, and it would be amazing. But I'm like, I wonder if they would do, like, a Big Thunder ride, where you have, like, this runaway train and, like, the whole town around it and stuff. Or, like, I wonder if they would do that. Because I did actually like the Jungle Cruise film a lot. I didn't know what to think going into it. I was like, I know probably some of the iconic jokes they're going to say. I was so glad when they mentioned the backside of water. But I thought it was actually quite a good film. So I wonder if they would ever do another film based on an attraction, and what would it be? Like, what is the most iconic attraction that they could do it on? But hi Alex, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. We are currently having a discussion about what Disney needs to be doing in the future. But I can't think of what other right. I mean, I love Figment. I don't think you can make a whole film about Figment, but I love Figment. I will die on a hill for Figment. I think Figment is great. Yes, Jamie, you're so right. There were rumours of Scarlett Johansson doing a Tower of Terror movie. Yeah, and there was loads of controversy, wasn't there? Because either she quit it or they fired her from it. There was something around it, because there was an argument over something else, and then she kind of got scrapped from the film, and then it got resolved and she was back, but then we've heard nothing about the film. So it's like, is it going to come back? Is it not going to come back? Nobody knows. But that would be really cool, because I love Tower of Terror. But again, I'm like, they could easily mess that up, and I'm like, please don't. Figment animated series would work so well. That would be perfection. That would be so good. Expedition Everest, you're so right, Sarah. That would be an amazing film. You could do so much with that. That would be so, so good. Something that I was mentioned a while ago, which I think would be the best thing. I don't want to see any more live action remakes unless it is a Muppet remake of a Disney film. Incredible. And like, or just anything, like when did you see the Muppets, the Haunted Mansion film? That was incredible. Absolutely loved it. So if we could do more of that, Muppets doing Star Wars, I would burst. Like, there's so many incredible things you could do with the Muppets. I feel like Disney needs to do more with the Muppets in general. But Muppet remakes, I'm all about. Christina, It's a Small World. That would be such a cute film. They could totally do that. Yes, Alex, you're 100% right. I mentioned Big Thunder because I'm with you. I think it would be really cool to explore Thunder Mesa. And you could include Phantom Manor in that, which would be really, really cool. I think there's so much scope for that. I think that would be really interesting, and to have this kind of like Wild West setting, but everything's a bit off. Um, I think that would be so cool. So I think that would be really cool. Yes, Christina, a Mickey and Star Wars mashup. Can you imagine? Could you only imagine? But it was funny. Me and Chris had talked about this because I'd posted about it a while ago. Like, I need there to be Muppets remakes of everything, and we were discussing which Muppets would be different Star Wars characters, and we both agreed. And I was like, "This is brilliant! Like, if we're thinking the same characters, then everyone must be thinking the same characters, which therefore means if everyone's thinking the same thing, it has to be made." That's my thinking. Maybe if we all just think about it, we'll manifest it, and it will happen. Jamie, that's so interesting. Doctor Who is now distributed by Disney, so you could get a TARDIS ride. Muppets Pirates would be the only acceptable Pirates film without Johnny Depp. 100%. If Johnny Depp is not in the Pirates films anymore, it has to be Muppets. That would be hilarious. I would love that. But I really hope Disney do more with the Muppets because they are so iconic. And it's like, I loved going to Muppet Vision 3D, and the jokes, people still laugh at them, people are still into them, like, they still hit. And like, yes, it is a bit of a dated attraction, but people still love it. And I'm like, so I hope that whole area they kind of develop, because there used to be like shops and more dining and stuff, whereas now it's kind of like one restaurant and that, and then the rest of it's empty. I think they could definitely develop it, but I also don't think that will go. I know a lot of people are worried that Monsters Inc. Land will go there. I don't think that's the case. I think that will go to Animation Courtyard, or like over where you've got like Star Wars launch pads, stuff like that, because meet and greets you can move anywhere, and that's a load of dead space. Whereas Muppet Vision, the Muppets are still popular. It's the only place in Disney World you've got Muppets, and also it was Jim Henson's last project, so it's kind of like a legacy project. So I hope they won't, because of those reasons, touch it. But they need to do more. Yeah, Muppets Treasure Island, one of my childhood favourites. Animal is Jack Sparrow. Oh my god, that would be incredible. Could you imagine? Like, that would be the best. So I feel like every remake, if it was by the Muppets, would be incredible. I don't know why they haven't tapped into that, because no one wants the live action remakes. But everyone you say Muppet remakes is like, yes, 100% do it now. So yeah, and I do like that they did do that like Haunted Mansion films. They have started to use the Muppets, but I'm like, more please, more, more. It has to happen. Because they also did the TV show, didn't they? Where it's kind of all about the music and like them in the band. So they're kind of getting it. But yeah, you're right, Alex. Animation Courtyard is great for meeting so many characters, but I do think they can easily move character meet and greets. Whereas I think if you got rid of the Muppets, like, there's no coming back from that. Like, that's done. That attraction's gone. Like, the whole land's gone. Whereas character meets we could move, and like Star Wars Launch Bay would make more sense if you had character meets in Galaxy's Edge. Like, I think it's good that they do have Disney Junior for for the younger kids, but I feel like they could move that. I'm like, they can move that. Don't touch the Muppets. I feel like if they did touch the Muppets, it would be so unpopular. We've already seen people panicking, and they haven't even suggested that, and people are like up in arms already. And I feel like where they have already made some unpopular decisions, like getting rid of Tom Sawyer Island, they can't cope if they keep getting rid of all the things people love. It would be a nightmare. But it will be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, I'm so excited for Monsters Inc. Land. I think it will be incredible, but it will be interesting to see where it ends up. But Muppets Avengers would be epic. Absolutely. I honestly do not think... I think everything is made better with Muppets. I cannot think of anything that wouldn't be... Hocus Pocus, the Muppet edition. Absolutely incredible. Miss Piggy as... she's not... She is called Sarah, isn't she? Because I'm pretty sure as a kid I thought it was funny that she was called Sarah and her name is Sarah in real life. Miss Piggy needs to be... I mean, she'd want to be Winifred, but I'd be like, no, you have to be Sarah because it would be iconic. But I think everything's made better with Muppets. But Alex, this is a great question. So I currently don't have any future Disney World plans. So I do actually have a booking for next year, but I think that will get moved because I don't think I'm going to save enough money in time for it. But I was just very hopeful. I was like, if I put the deposit down, because it is only £50 deposit, which I think is fantastic. So I was like, we'll put the deposit down, we'll work towards that. But then between doing that, and now my work situation has changed. So I don't think I'm going to be able to save enough. But we never know. You never know what's going to happen to you. So maybe we will. Maybe that will happen. But I'm desperate to go back because it's just so good. It's so good. But it's the worst when you come home, isn't it? When you don't know when you're going back. But like I was saying earlier, I think one of the good things about Disney World is because you don't get to go as frequently. It is so much more special for it, which is so good. But I just miss it so much. But do any of you? Well, I know a few people are going very soon. But does anyone else have any plans? Yes, Alex, you need to convince your husband. It needs to happen. Has he ever been? Or would it be his first visit? Because we were talking about this earlier, where people are kind of skeptical and they're like, okay, maybe I'll go because you really want to go. And then they end up falling in love and they're obsessed with it. So I'd love to know if he's been before or if not, because you could get a convert. It'll be amazing. Oh, wait, I'm going to plug my phone in because it's telling me it's about to die. How very rude of the phone to not consider the fact that we're talking. Oh, this is difficult now because I'm just going to have to hold it because I was standing upright because this was meant to be the normal way. It was meant to be landscape. And then the settings didn't work. So now is this still working or is this frozen? What's going on? Oh no, it is still working. Okay, that's okay. Because I've got my laptop because basically the writing on the screen is very small. And I'm too old. So I have to have the laptop to check the comments. But yeah, I'm going to have to hold this now because where I was standing it up, I've had to plug it in, which is outrageous. I can't believe the first live stream back and YouTube was like, no, we're not allowing this to go correctly. But it's been so good. Oh, Alex, love that. You went in April this year and then you dragged him to Disneyland Resort in August. That is so exciting. And yeah, it's the best, isn't it? When you can make memories together in like the happiest place on earth, there is nothing better. So I love that. You definitely need to be like, I feel like we really have to go back to Disney World because there's more things for us to explore. That is the way to do it. And it's just the best. It's just the best place. And I'm so excited that on Wednesday, which is very close now, the travel day is going up and then we go straight into 2 weeks of Disney. It's going to be amazing. The only kind of non-Disney is Halloween Horror Nights and like trips to malls, but we're going fully Disney and it will be 15 weeks of vlogs, which is going to be so exciting. And then we're also ramping up. So we're going to have 2 food reviews. So they're just going to be like short, snappy little food reviews of like, this is where I'm dining, this is the vegan option, this is what it's like, the kind of like people that might like it, the people might not like it. Just these short little quick reviews. So we're going to have 2 of them a week and then we'll have a planning video like we normally do. So I think what's going to happen is obviously once a month we have the live stream, twice a month we have the podcast, 2 dining reviews a week, 1 planning video a week, 1 vlog a week. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a bonanza. And the planning videos, obviously, at the moment, there'll be a sleuth of Disney World related ones, particularly about time-sensitive things like Halloween Horror Nights or Multipass. But the planning videos, I will then also be having Disneyland Paris and Disneyland planning videos coming back as well. So there'll be a nice mixture of all of those Disney parks. I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. And I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. It's been the best job. I can't believe. I just, when I plugged in my phone, I saw the time and I was like, oh, I can't believe it. And that's the thing that's really nice about the live stream is because you're just chatting away. The time goes so quickly and you don't realise. But thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to spend it with me because it is the absolute best. These are my favourite times of the month where we get to kind of chat, and you're 100% right, we need to arrange a meet up because it'll be so wonderful to actually meet face to face and be chatting in person and having a good time. So we definitely need to plan that, and I cannot wait for Wednesday and it to all start. It's all happening. I've already edited obviously the travel day. I've got 2 food reviews all ready to go. I'm part way through day 1 in Magic Kingdom. However, I filmed 2.5 hours of footage on the first day. So obviously that will be edited down, but I feel like it's still going to be a long vlog, so strap in. We might end up with a feature-length vlog, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, I cannot wait to share it. And the trip was so magical. And I think that's the thing. When you have these tips that you know, and you know how to get the most out of it, every day is an absolute dream. And I think that's what's so lucky about getting to go. And I hope that during the vlog series, you'll pick up maybe some tips or learn something that you didn't know, or see something you haven't had the chance to experience yet, and do it during your next trip. And it helps you have the best time and makes everything so magical, because it's just the best, isn't it? Like, we can't get rid of it. Yes, Jamie, longer the better. That's the thing. I think people do like the long vlogs, which is very exciting. And Simon's getting the popcorn ready for the travel. So the travel day is actually interesting. The travel day is quite short. But once we get into the Disney side of things, I think they're going to end up being kind of long. So save the popcorn. But the travel day, I think, will be interesting to see the kind of premium experience, because it was so nice to do that again after such a long time having not done that. The downside is the car hire fiasco. I didn't film a lot of it because I had too many cases. So I had not enough hands to do everything. But I can't wait for you to see the travel day and then diving straight back into Disney. And it was just a dream. It was such a dream trip. And it's so nice to be able to vlog, and then when you come home, edit. So you keep that vibe alive and those memories alive. Because I think it definitely helps the Disney blues, because where you're coming back and then you're still immersed in it, it helps so much. So yeah, I cannot wait to share them because it's going to be the best. But yes, it's going to be so fun. And like 15 weeks, we're going into next year with the vlogs, which is going to be absolutely incredible. Like, once they start, we know into January we're going to have Disney World vlogs, which is going to be so good. And I'm very excited to do this Halloween Horror Nights video as well, where we will have more clips of the intense reactions. Which is so good. And I did manage to film some of the like scare zones, because those you can film. It's just inside the houses you can't. But can't wait to kind of do the nervous person's guide to Halloween Horror Nights. That's going to probably be one of the first planning videos that comes out. Obviously doing a haul video, doing the taste test video, Multipass. And if there's any topics you would like to see specifically, do let me know, because it's always nice to know what things people have questions about or would like to know more about. So if you ever have any things you want to know, or you think that would be a good topic, do let me know. So thank you so much again for joining me. I hope you all have had a lovely weekend. I hope you have a lovely week. I hope it stops raining and we can go outside and enjoy things instead of being cooped up indoors. But yes, Jamie, that's perfect. They're going to take you all the way up to your Disneyland Paris trip. That's the thing. You get the Disney excitement, and then you're there in Disney, which is going to be so good. And then once the Disney World vlogs end, there'll be a couple of weeks gap, and then I'll have a Disneyland Paris series starting. So there'll be loads happening, which is going to be so good. But yeah, thank you once again. This has been a hoot. Thank you for joining me, even though it's the wrong way round. I'm hoping, because we've all got TikTok, we're used to seeing it this way now. But it was not the plan. It was not the plan. But you know, we rolled with it. So thank you. And I will see you all very soon. And oh, this is the other thing. When I was doing my previous vlog series, I would do premieres. So at like 6 o'clock, it would go out live, and like this, you would have the comment section. And I could like write little things that happened. Answer any questions or interact with people. Would you like the live premieres, or do you prefer being able to watch them whenever you are free to watch? So do let us know, because yeah, do we do the premieres again? What will happen? But yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you all very soon. And the next month we will have a kind of, maybe we should do a Halloween themed live stream, because it will be the end of the month, so it'll be quite appropriate. So see you all soon. See you later. Bye-bye. Oh, this is the moment where I don't know how to exit, and we have to just pretend that I know what I'm doing with technology. See you soon.